Commissioner.
12 Today with Ari and James. Monday through Friday, 8A to 11A Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
It's Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. We are exclusively on TuneIn on the audio side, watching us on Big 12 Studios. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. T-Chains, Taman Turner on the audio side, producing and engineering and quarterbacking our show. And we've got Anthony Smith on the video side behind the scenes. Our Big 12 game of the week this Saturday. We'll be previewing this one at length tomorrow. Houston at BYU on the hardwood starts at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 9:30 Central. It is a Three Things Thursday. We've got three things. Good morning, sir.
What do you have?
Always have three.
What are the three things you've got?
Top three things today. Kurt Cignetti and his comments about the lack of spring practices at Indiana. And I think we highlight Indiana so much, even though they're in a different league, because they won the championship in a way that we see Big 12 teams capable of doing. And then also what Joe Flacco said about, he was really complaining about penalties and how much quarterbacks are getting hit, but he also leaned into quarterback development or lack thereof. And then the third thing would be, for me, Kansas State men's basketball, and maybe the hottest seed in the Big 12. From an outside perspective, looks like Jerome Tang at Kansas State, my alma mater, but the AD backing his coach. So those are my three things, rapid fire.
Have you ever been out to Super Bowl Radio Row before?
No.
Yeah. So that's Joe Flacco was out there at Radio Row. You know, I mean, it's just like a huge, for lack of a better way to put it, like a sports talk radio convention every year. And, I mean, you've got radio stations from across the country. Everybody's broadcasting. You know, every radio station invests tons of money to send their teams and shows out there. There's great guests, tons of people walking around. It's really interesting. I always wonder if, like, do people care? You know, like I know it's fun to go and be there because, of course, it is. Like, who doesn't want a free trip to the Super Bowl city and, you know, to be there all week? And there's lots of glitz and glamour. Like, there's lots of things going on. But I always, like, in fact, I think the last time I went, it was in San Francisco. You want to talk about a weird setup because, like, everything is so far away. You know, the stadium's in Santa Clara. You've got the setup for Radio Row in San Francisco. You've got other events going on in a different part of the city. And then you walk around the city and people are like, oh, the Super Bowl's here?
That's San Francisco, right?
Right.
But you do get, like, some really good sit-down interviews one-on-one because it's more of a laid-back, casual environment.
Right.
And there's so many people doing the same thing.
Right.
That usually there's some gold that comes from guys like Joe Flacco.
Right.
Who shouldn't have a dog in the fight, but he's there, and he's on Radio Row, and he's saying some interesting things.
Well, all these guys that are either former players or current players, they get, like, advertising deals, endorsement deals. And so then they basically, you have them set up for an interview time, and then they come on, and then you interview them. But then there's a product they're promoting. Mm-hmm. So I mean that's the game.
Yeah,
is they're all promoting something, which is the reason they're there.
We are promoting the Big 12 Modelo Designs for Sport and my new 32 Degrees pullover.
Is this it?
This is it.
Okay, so yesterday on the show, I've got my other pair. I've got khakis and then these gray 32 degrees.
These aren't your sweat jeans? Are these traditional jeans?
No, these are my other. I have two pairs of the sweat jeans. Wow. So 32 degrees, great brand, very cheap, very thrifty. But you made your first order. I'd been advising you. You kept complimenting me on my clothes, which, by the way, you're just a great complimenter of people. It's wonderful. Makes me feel very good about myself, despite
That's how I get people to like me.
That's it. That's why. So you bought, and then you said yesterday that the pair of pants were a little bit too girly.
Yeah. My wife asked, why are you wearing women's pants? And then I need to explain something. My wife and I, who I realized after watching that segment, that I didn't paint her in the best light. She is not a mean person. She does not bully me, actually. She is a delight. We have a very playful relationship. So her telling me that I'm fat, old, and stupid, I know she doesn't actually, to her core, believe those things.
No, I mean, look, Everybody in their life needs somebody that's going to tell them the truth.
Okay, check this baby out.
So you're wearing your shirt that, according to your wife, makes you look old, fat, and stupid.
It's ill-fitting.
I would say it definitely doesn't make you look stupid.
That's just my face. Okay?
It definitely doesn't make you look stupid, James. I'll say that.
All right.
Old and fat, yes.
Okay, thank you. She said kind of old man, old dad vibe.
Not fat.
I'm pretty...
But you're right. It's a little ill-fitting. It's a little wide.
Lumpy.
Kinda.
I feel like I'm wearing a beanbag.
Yeah.
It's got beanbag vibes.
Or hacky sack.
Yeah, I'm just
like I just want to kick you on my foot. And
Right? It's very soft. Give it a feel. Don't be shy.
Oh, it's 32 degrees, of course. It's some of the best product on earth.
I mean, it feels too good, and I can't return it, so I'm forced now to wear it on the reg.
I wonder if we can go and get it maybe tailored a little bit so it's a little bit more form-fitting.
Well, then it's not it loses value.
Yeah, correct.
Like-
correct. Then the $5 pullover you got suddenly balloons to $35.
That's an industry. Tailoring itself is an industry. I mean, they are charging premium prices anywhere you go.
Yeah.
It's actually cheaper. I'll order a sport coat. I've always got to wear these jackets on TV. I'll wear the coat. If it doesn't fit right, I know that if I take it and get it tailored, it will cost me more than it would to return it and just buy the next size.
It's amazing.
Doesn't make any sense.
By the way, speaking of suits, so if you recall last year with our school, we have these different parties that are thrown. We did the Dress Like Your Spouse party last year. Do you remember we talked about this? Like I was dressing up like my wife?
Yeah.
So this year, the party that we're doing, and again, this is like basically a fundraiser for the school. So how this works is people get together, a group of people get together. They say, we're going to throw a party. They're called sign and goes, whatever. But basically, like a group of people put a party on, and then like you pay for the bar or wherever you're going to have it, whatever you're going to do. I mean, there's all different kinds. There's like a men's bourbon night. So we did another party this year. So, the group pays for all the food, the drinks, the bar, whatever, and then people buy tickets for that party, and all the money goes back to the school, right? So that's kind of the gist of it. So this year, last year our party was like in October. This year our party is next week. It's Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day is on Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday the 14th, which is a loaded day in the Big 12.
Loaded day in the Big 12. So we're doing a prom theme.
Okay. Tell me more.
Just any, like, that. It's go. Prom, go.
Prom, suit.
Yeah,
Maybe a little, what do you call a
like we could do,
flower
like,
in the jacket?
Carrie.
I've got some banger ties I can hook you up with.
She's All That. We could do like a movie theme. We could do like different generations.
Mm-hmm. You could do a lot of different things.
Well, you're the creative guy, so
you guys are looking for ideas?
I am.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking for ideas.
She's All That. Good, man. That's a movie. That's like a core memory of our childhood, like adolescence, puberty, all the things.
Yeah, no, I already thought of She's All That. Any others? Carrie? Could do Carrie?
Yeah. Dumb and Dumber? Dumb and Dumber suits?
That's not prom.
No, it's not prom. I just want a reason to wear a ridiculous suit. It's more so what I'm looking for. You guys are always doing, like, over there in your neighborhood, your school, you're always doing all these activities, all these fun parties.
True.
I just asked my wife the other day, I said, why don't we do any of that at our school? She said, we do, you just never want to go. She said, because you're gone so much, and then when you get home, you're too tired to go anywhere.
She's like, we do.
I just stopped telling you.
Did you forget you don't like going places or being out past 10 o'clock?
I just don't tell you anymore. So anyways, she's a lovely woman. I think this is oat colored. So there's a lot to unpack here. Number one, don't buy anything oat colored.
Okay.
All right. If I were to power rank the most boring cereal menu items on the planet, oat would be at the top of the list.
Now, oat color feels very on brand for you. You like your neutral.
Boring, neutral.
Yes,
yeah, I hear you. Stiff and rigid. Yeah. All right.
I mean, why do you not like oat as a color?
It's fine. I just thought oat, like, what was I thinking to zero in on an item of all the colors out there that was oat? If I were ranking cereals, oat would be
very low.
Very low.
Yeah, no, that's a great
low.
point.
All right, Taman, can we play the audio from Curt Cignetti? Because we talk about Coach Cignetti. We love him. But we also love what he's done at Indiana.
And by the way, we love him now. He wins another one, and suddenly he becomes Enemy of the state, number one.
Public enemy number one.
Correct. Thank you.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah. If he wins another one, all that goes out the door. But what he did last year is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cute. It's fun. Everybody loves it. Like who's the
Underdog
next Indiana?
story. Yeah, it's us.
By the way, that is the number one. Talk about list season. The number one list all off season is going to be that. Who's the next? Here's a list of who could be the next Indiana. I mean, I've already seen like 3 or 4 of them, but every publication, every writer that writes for anything college football is going to have some kind of list at some point this offseason. My over-under is 15 who's the next Indiana lists across the publication
We
sphere.
will shatter that number.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing for the Big 12. Because who's the next Indiana takes all of those teams that hit the blue chip ratio year in and year out off the table.
Yep.
Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Texas. They can't be the next Indiana. But who can be Texas Tech, Houston, Arizona, Arizona State, BYU, Big 12 schools, right? So let's hear what Curt Cignetti said about how he manages their spring schedule.
And, we'll practice 13 times. I've never practiced 15 times in spring yet. I've never practiced 25 times in fall camp. But we'll get enough done in 13 days.
Is that right?
Yeah, never.
And an hour and a half on the field, you said.
Well, yeah, Now spring ball may go 150.
That's gonna get players there off that schedule. You keeping them fresh, you keeping them ready to go. Efficiency.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do is keeping them fresh and healthy. Because nobody has depth, and I've never had a team that had enough depth.
Do you buy that less practice can actually mean better football?
Well, and I wonder if it is less practice. So in spring, you can have up to 15 practices. In fall camp, you can have up to 25 practices. But if he's practicing for 2 hours instead of an hour and a half and 13 practices, he's really practicing less. Part of like Indiana's motto or MO is peak efficiency. Like they don't have to work the craziest hours nonstop. Like that is a huge part of the allure of Indiana because they talk openly about that. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I think Curt Cignetti works as hard as anybody. I think he makes his team work as hard as anybody, and the proof's in the pudding. I watch his team. They don't make mistakes. Like, they do all the little things, and that comes born out of a team that works at peak efficiency, but I don't think that it means they work under time.
Right.
Now, maybe to the point of, I think it was Urban Meyer, and I can't remember who the other person speaking was, but you'll get people there just for, to keep them fresh. Like, you're not really hitting in spring. I mean, maybe a little bit. Fall a little bit more as you want to ratchet up. I think that's maybe the bigger thing in terms of keeping guys fresh. Because, Indiana had to play how many football games this year? 16?
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about a full regular season schedule, playing in a conference championship, playing in a postseason, you've got to figure out ways to steal some time in the margins there.
Mm-hmm. 16 games is a lot. And Ohio State, when they won the national championship, their defense had been on the field less snaps than anybody else in the college football playoff. Same thing coming into this year's college football playoff. Now, this year they got upset by Miami.
Didn't work as well this year.
But they were still fresh. And I would love to know the number of snaps that Indiana had, because Texas Tech's defense had been on the field significantly more snaps than a lot of the other teams in the college football playoff.
That's a great point.
I do think load management and kind of managing snaps and how many hits you're delivering or taking do play a factor.
It almost seems like Ohio State went too far the other way. And, because a lot of the thing, too, all year was, they're not even showing anything on offense. Like, that was the whole thing. Is like, they're limiting some of the snap counts for some of their wide receivers. And maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I mean, it's hilarious if you do that and then end up not winning a championship. They tried the same thing the year before and won the championship. But, like, there's got to be a balance there between, like, again, having guys fresh, but then also having guys on the same page, having enough reps together. I don't think the snap count for Texas Tech on their defense was bad. Like,
right,
they still dominated in their playoff game. It wasn't the defense's fault they didn't win that game. Maybe it's their fault they didn't score.
Yeah, the lack of snaps that the offense could stay on the field, because the offense throughout the course of the season was either scoring on explosive plays or they were not quite going 3 and out, but their drives would stall
Great point.
pretty early on.
Great point.
So I used to think that the minutes or the snaps, I should say, in football was kind of like a conspiracy theory, but I think there's been enough data now where it does ring true, especially in this era where players are bigger, stronger, faster. There are NFL-ready 18 and 19-year-old kids on the football field. And I think it also rings true for BYU, the fact that they're a little bit older, not at the quarterback position. That's been well documented. That Bear Bachmeier's only 19. He was a true 19-year-old freshman this year, turned 19 during the season. But at some other positions, they do have guys that just look more physically developed and can withstand that.
Well, the other thing about that, too, is, like, so if you take the NBA, for instance, they kind of started the load management piece. It's not necessarily about, how much does it help you or impact you in the playoffs by not having guys play. It's more about if you do it versus teams that don't, you're at a major advantage. Mm-hmm. Because if you've rested guys across the season and they're fresher, like the Spurs made this famous.
Oh, yeah.
At a time when I was covering them. And like they were fresher in the playoffs than their opposition, but they had enough reps together that it wasn't an issue. Now, here's the difference in the Spurs. Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, those guys had played many years together.
Right.
Even though there are other players that they had to infuse, like for the most part, if you've got a group that has played together for a long time, you can do that. You can take nights off, rest guys, have more load management. I think that's probably more difficult in college football or college basketball because like what you see is what you get, and next year it's a new team.
Another angle or path that Indiana took is Curt Cignetti recruited really high IQ guys, really intelligent football players. And I wonder how much, is there enough time for programs to analyze that piece during the transfer portal recruiting cycle? Because you only have a couple of weeks. But Curt Cignetti ended up with a roster full of, like his quarterback was MIT level smart. He had a roster full of guys that could absorb that information, the analytics piece, everything else, in that short window of spring practices and fall camp. So that's kind of another layer that I'd love to learn more about and how they built that thing. All right, Big 12 basketball. Man, it was a wild one last night. Oklahoma State storming the court, getting a huge ranked win, quad one win, their first of the season. Big 12 basketball recaps are coming up next as Oklahoma State takes down BYU. Houston holds serve at home against UCF. They looked dominant. There were two other games, and there's one more on the slate on the men's side tonight. He's Ari, I'm James, and this is Big 12 Radio.
And we are underway from Gallagher-Iba. Oklahoma State normally due for an upset in this building every year. He has taken kind of that mantra from when he was at Creighton under Coach McDermott and some of the high-octane offenses that they had there. A shifty Anthony Roy throws it up and in. Got to be up on that. Look at that from Roy. He shot that from Eskimo Joe's. DiBonsa on the run, spinning, and it rolls home. Now that could get DiBonsa going. He has that great jump hook over his left shoulder. Oklahoma State wasn't doing that as much as there's an alley-oop to Keita. Now they go double team. DiBonsa splits it. Wide open, Saunders cashes in for three. Bit of pressure there from BYU. Anthony Roy scooping for two, and the foul. They sliced right through it. Victorious Miller got the mismatch in the blow-by for two. Just down the road, 20 miles at Langston here in Oklahoma. A couple of years later, he is. And DiBonsa thought he got fouled, make it 34 for him. There's just not enough time left. Miller with an exclamation point. The Cowboys shock BYU in Stillwater.
Winners last night in Big 12 men's basketball: Houston, Baylor, Arizona State, and Oklahoma State. We break it down. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you by Modelo. Our guest in this first hour is the Chancellor Johnson, Big 12 analyst and content creator. He'll be with us here in about 15 minutes. Let's go up to Stillwater. Oklahoma State gets a massive win. BYU came in, number 16 in the country. Oklahoma State was searching for a quad one win, and they got it. Wild one, 99-92. A.J. DiBonsa was unguardable. He went off for 36. But BYU got off to another just disastrous start. Oklahoma State opened the game on a 20-9 run. BYU took more than 3 minutes from the get-go to make a field goal, and Anthony Roy had 8 of those first 20 for Oklahoma State. BYU comes back. It's tied at halftime, 41-all. BYU briefly had an early lead in the second half before Oklahoma State went on an extended run and actually led at the 4-minute timeout by a dozen after Anthony Roy canned a 3. They hang on for the win.
Yeah, I mean, look at the score, 99-92. I think we talked about the issues that BYU has defensively, and that was evident in this game, not just from the start, James, but throughout. I mean, you're consistently giving up 90, 100 points in games. That's really tough. And I think big picture, like, if they don't fix their defense, I don't know how this team can be a deep tournament team, because look what happened to them last year. Even if you don't run into an Alabama team that just shoots crazy from 3, like, you're going to run into a team that can score against you. And so, big win for Oklahoma State, big picture. I mean, this has got to help solidify for them a good path to getting into the tournament. You know, we talked about UCF is probably in with their 2 quad one wins already, maybe. But Oklahoma State was searching for one, and they get it. Anthony Roy, you mentioned, 30 points for him. He was phenomenal in this game. And, you know, despite the slow start, this game was still tied at half. So I think Oklahoma State did a really good job of not just, you know, leading from ahead, but, you know, taking advantage of the second half as well of this porous defense for BYU.
And Oklahoma State also has a top 25 win over UCF. So based off of where UCF sits, even with their loss to Houston, this may slide up to be Oklahoma State's second quad one win. Certainly should be, because UCF is like 37th, at least they were in the net rankings, which the net rankings don't get updated on a 24-hour basis. It's like every couple of days. So we don't know where Oklahoma State and UCF sit right now. But looking at KenPom, Oklahoma State could easily have 2 quad one wins, and all of a sudden their resume looks very, very different. They're 3-2 in their last 5. They've won back-to-back. They're almost 500 in Big 12 play, and they are the new front runner to get that 8th bid in the Big 12.
What do you think was the difference in this game?
Well, I think BYU's defense, something is afoot with BYU defensively, because they're very analytics-driven. And Kevin Young had comments yesterday about BYU and their defense, and maybe they're allowing guys that, from a percentage standpoint, don't shoot the ball particularly well. They're basically not guarding those guys, and those guys are making shots because they're wide open. So they've got to tweak some things defensively. That is an issue.
Yeah, they also had 16 turnovers in this game, which BYU, Oklahoma State was able to turn into points, 22 points on 16 turnovers. And then I think the other part to this is that Oklahoma State was plus 14 in the paint, 50 paint points to 36. So, I mean, they kind of got wherever they want offensively.
Huge win for the Cowboys. Now, there's 2 different parts of this game. Number 1 is what happened on the floor, and number 2 is what happened in the crowd. Once again, there were some derogatory chants that we want to reemphasize are not cool, not okay in the Big 12. Oklahoma State is 3-1 against BYU all-time in Stillwater. So this wasn't the first time they've beaten BYU in Stillwater. My first thought was, well, Oklahoma State just hasn't been there. Either way, it's not okay.
Yeah, here, let's take a listen. Can we hear what Kevin Young had to say about this after the game?
Just there was some F the Mormons chants tonight by the student section that I heard. And, you know, it's a great win for Oklahoma State University. Their fans should be proud. But it would be great if you know, some class was warranted, you know, in there as well. You know, I got 4 small kids at home. You know, I'm a Mormon. When I go home, they're going to ask me about it. same way they asked me about it last year at Arizona. There's just too much hate in the world to be saying stuff like that. We got enough problems in our world without going at people's religion and beliefs and like whether it's in vogue or not. And we don't even have our whole teams. We only have probably 4 or 5 guys who are even Mormon on the team. I understand what we represent, but even for a guy like AJ, you know, like that stuff is unwarranted. And like I said, man, like, you know, I try to talk to our guys about being examples in the world. Like we can use basketball to really just bring people together and not tear people apart. It's something we talk about a lot. And it's just disappointing. So I hope someone prints that. I hope it's in bold on someone's publication, and just try to maybe together as a society we can just help the world kind of move forward and not divide each other and with hate and things that's really nonsensical.
Yeah, it's extremely disappointing. You know, you get the student section, like they get amped up and they're going to say things. I mean, there was the chance for Darren Peterson the other night and whatever, but
Lubbock, yeah.
It's completely unacceptable. Just full stop. It's completely unacceptable, and it's got to stop across the Big 12. BYU has been a godsend for this conference. BYU has been tremendous for this conference. Forget the fact that BYU fans routinely put together opportunities to, you know, collect money, funds for other schools and some of the things they've got going on. What was the thing with BYU before the BYU-Texas Tech football game? There was the Texas Tech.
Like the Texas Tech team barber had been in a traffic accident. They raised thousands. I think they hit 6 figures.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. BYU fans raised hundreds of thousands. Mormons raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for Texas Tech and their team barber, and I think it was the team barber's wife who had been involved in a traffic accident. And that's just one example.
Yeah.
That group of BYU alum, Mormons, human beings, have come together to raise tons of money for tons of different causes that have nothing to do with BYU or Mormons. It's unacceptable. Yeah. No other religion would be subjected to that in a basketball game, and we'd be okay with that.
Exactly. Yeah, and you and I were talking before the show about that, which is a whole nother layer. Totally agree. And BYU, to magnify just how incredible they have been for this league, number one, as people and as fans. Number two, in terms of national relevance, NBA and NFL talent, TV value, real credibility, because they're winning on the field and off the field and the court. And for Oklahoma State, like, act like you've been there, right? Celebrate the win. Celebrate Anthony Roy. He had a banger of a night. Celebrate that signature night in Stillwater. And demeaning the opponent now taints that. And there will be a fine. There will be repercussions, and it's going to hurt the Oklahoma State basketball.
And I know BYU fans, like, it's almost become a joke to a degree for them because it happens so often that, you know, yeah, there's going to be a reprimand. The Oklahoma State will come out and release a statement and say that does not reflect our values. I mean, it's the same. I mean, I'm not saying anything to BYU fans they don't already know or haven't already articulated. But, I mean, they have forever been, for that reason, okay, because of the Mormon faith, BYU has been alienated from the rest of college athletics. And we can go through the history, whatever, but, like, where they are today, the Big 12 needs to be, like, a family. And you got to wrap your arms around everybody within this family. And, like, outside of this circle, like, they may say those things, but it's so disappointing that this conference still has that. And maybe it's just like the old schoolyard bully thing where it's like just go for the easiest way to make somebody feel bad. But it's just, it sucks. It's disappointing we have to continue to talk about this. I wish there was something else that could be done. But just look at the value add that they've had and just forget about everything else. Like, the fact that group of people raises money for causes across this conference, like no other school does that.
Right.
No other fan base does that. It's super disappointing. I know for BYU fans, they're like, yeah, this happens all the time. But it shouldn't, especially in this conference, because it's the reason, the Mormon faith was the reason that BYU, for 100 years, was not in a conference. Mm-hmm. It's the reason.
Yeah. Big 12 has embraced them on the Big 12 side, it's time that these Big 12 member institutions do the same, because BYU in this league is really good for Oklahoma State.
I mean, it starts at a school level. If you've got a student section that starts to chant that, somebody needs to stop it right away.
Shut it down.
And then, like, revoke. You can't come into the stadium again.
Yep.
You're done.
Shut it down. And the Oklahoma State students sit right behind the benches. They are right there, rows 1 through like 7. It's a small, compact area that you can manage some of that.
Kick them out, and they can't come back.
Mm-hmm. All right, the other team last night that has maybe started to enter the conversation. They're now 3-7 in Big 12 play, and all of their metrics look really good because they played a brutal non-conference schedule and had some nice wins, and that is Baylor. Baylor takes down Colorado at home last night in front of a great crowd at Foster Pavilion, 86-67. They were up by 24 at halftime. Baylor offensively was a machine, shot 53% from the floor. They made 10 threes last night. Everybody getting involved with Yesufu, Cameron Carr, Obi Agbim was fantastic. Carr and Agbim combined for 12 assists. They each had 6 to only 3 turnovers. And the leading scorer for for Baylor was Yesufu with 27, who continues to get better. Baylor's another team that I'm kind of watching close. Like, they're 1 or 2 really quality wins away from being very much back on the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game Baylor had to have. You know, when and go back to the Oklahoma State BYU game, like, you got to win on your home floor. If you're a tournament team, and you've got to win on your home floor, period. Doesn't matter who you're playing. And you've got to just do enough on the road. And so Baylor had to have this game. I think this is about as good as they've looked all year, offensively and defensively. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, they shot the ball well. They rebounded the basketball extremely well. The rebounding was huge for Baylor. I think they out-rebounded them by +6. So yeah, that was it's a big win for Baylor. They needed it.
Houston looked like Houston last night. They stomped UCF 79-55. Kingston Flemings had 18 points. He had 6 assists. And then the other freshman, Chris Sinak, had 14 points and 10 rebounds. Houston is 20-2 now, 8-1 in Big 12 play. UCF didn't have a player in double figures. Stillwell had 8, 6, and 6 for them. But Houston is so much better quietly than they were in November. Here's what Kelvin Sampson said, clip 12, about how his team has improved the most.
We just do what most good teams do. You know, you don't ever draw conclusions on teams early in the season. And if you do, make sure you put a comma. Don't put periods. Teams get better as the year goes on. Most good teams do. So we weren't capable of doing this in November. You know, our first game, I think, was against Lehigh. That was our guys, all our freshmen. Mercy's basically a freshman this year. Chase is a freshman. Kingston's a freshman. Chris is a freshman. And we got a lot of guys playing minutes for the first time in college. 2 of them were in high school last year. So obviously, early in the season, we were kind of moving at a pace I anticipated. We just kind of get better as the year goes on. We've done that around here for a long time.
By the way, Houston shot the ball horrifically last night. They were 3 for 19 from three-point range, 16% as a team, and they still beat a team that's top 25 caliber by 24.
Yeah, I mean, and this was a classic Houston game where, like, they rebound the ball, they kill you rebounding, they kill you in the paint, and they suffocate you defensively. You know, like this was how Houston, like, this is Houston's brand, this game. If you want to say, like, what is Houston under Kelvin Sampson? Just show them this game. They, you know, they could shoot a lot better from 3. They have a lot better three-point shooters. Right. But the fact that, as you brought up, they shot and only hit 3 threes in this game and still won by 20, and we're up basically by 20 the entire game, seemingly, is because they suffocate you defensively, they rebound the basketball, and they score in the paint. If you can do those 3 things in 6 games in the tournament, you're going to win the whole thing, regardless of how many threes you hit in the game.
You look at that line and you think maybe that's a night that Houston got, and they still win by 24. And their 2 best players on the floor were freshmen last night. Huge win For the Cougars, Arizona State also picked up a nice road win at Utah. They're now 3-7 in Big 12 play. As we take a look at the games that took place last night on the hardwood. All right, coming up next, we'll talk more about this Houston win over UCF and get Chancellor Johnson's thoughts on all the Big 12 basketball action. He is the Big 12 content creator and analyst. We'll ask him what he's been up to as he covers this league. That's Ari, I'm James, and this is Big 12 Radio. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league.
Both these teams in a lot of ways have had mirror images of each other statistically. So you got to tag these two guards on top. I like screening the top guys also.
Traore from the outside, it's good. Dawes got a hand on it. Arizona State recovers and Jot the finish. Jot going to work. Step back, and that is tough to stop.
7'1" just did that, by the way.
Johnson, tough shot for two.
That's what he does. I mean, he gets to the foul line a lot, and you see why. He takes the ball to the basket hard.
And he's in double figures as Dawes throws it down on the other end. Traore, good look for McHenry, who hits the three. Odom, that's a deep three. Yes! Mo Odom from Logan. Odom driving over Dawes for two. Traore baseline.
Taking a long time.
Brown cuts, misses. Okonkwo cleans it up. And Alex Jensen calls timeout. Brown had a rough night, 2 of 15. And that one is a fitting end to his evening as Arizona State wins it 71-63.
Back here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us each and every weekday on Big 12 Studios. With R.A. Timken, I'm James Westling, and we bring in our Big 12 storyteller, content creator, connoisseur, Chancellor Johnson. Chancellor, good morning.
Morning, fellas. How are you guys?
Man, we're fantastic. Wild night last night in men's basketball with Oklahoma State upsetting BYU, who's now lost 3 in a row. Houston flexing their muscles against UCF. Houston did not shoot it well and still beat a team that could be in the top 25 by 24 points. Just what does that say about Houston and what they did defensively?
Houston is just so dominant defensively, man, and the trend continues with these Kelvin Sampson teams that we've seen over the years. As you mentioned, they didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but when you're able to lock down a team the way the Cougars did last night, that's how you can win games. And so, I was at the game yesterday at Fertitta Center. There was a point in the game where Houston went on a run late in the first half, and I was watching UCF and their body language. And they just look like, man, like they look gassed and like, man, we just can't get anything easy. And one of the effects of that was when the Knights did get good looks, they rushed it because they felt like, I don't know when I'm going to get another one again. So their jump shots, when they maybe had an open jumper, that they rushed it on that, or they got downhill to the rim and they were close to the rim and they tricked off a layup because they're just so not used to seeing that. And then you look at what the Cougars were able to do as far as forcing a number of turnovers. UCF never got comfortable at all. And there were people who I was seeing on social media like, man, how did this UCF team beat Texas Tech? Well, it's not because UCF isn't good. The Knights are a really good team. They'll be a tournament team, and you could certainly make the argument they deserve to be a top 25 team coming to this matchup. But this is just what Houston does. They make good teams look bad, and even on the nights where they don't shoot the ball well, they still see nights like this where they win by 20-plus points and really wasn't very competitive at all.
And you, Chancellor, produced some great content and the lead up to this game from both UCF and Houston's side by talking to Kelvin Sampson and talking to UCF players. So what was kind of your takeaway from those conversations?
Yeah, I think with UCF, I feel like they have been underrated this season. As I mentioned before, the top 25, they didn't make it this week and come off that big win they had against Texas Tech. Obviously, they beat Kansas. And you look back towards the beginning of the preseason where they were picked near the bottom of the league, and they had a great non-conference run, and then they've been able to stay not just in the top half, but they were competing. And as we saw, their fans rushed the court the other day. I know they're having to eat that fine there. We'll see about Oklahoma State last night after BYU, but they have some really great players. I look at Demus Folks, who, as I mentioned earlier this week, I think he's a guy who, up until this game, was trending towards, should he be in consideration for Big 12, all Big 12 first team. Look at Riley Kugel and the impact that he's made. This is a really good Knights team, as I mentioned. They didn't show it last night against Houston, but they're a team that I think could get to the tournament and even win a game, right? And so they're a team that's looking to get to March Madness for the first time since 2019. And then, with Houston, as I mentioned, they just continue to do what we've seen, all season. And, they have a big matchup this week going on the road versus BYU. And I'm sure we'll talk about BYU here in a moment. But Houston just, still right there but below Arizona. And I'm circling my calendar in about 2 weeks, February 21st. The Arizona Wildcats, still undefeated on the season, will come to the Fertitta Center, one of the toughest places to play in all of college basketball. It's like the immovable force meets the unstoppable object. Who will win that game? But we'll cross that bridge when we get there here in a couple of weeks.
Okay, so you've got Chancellor Arizona going to Allen Fieldhouse on Monday and getting a win?
One more time, what'd you say?
You've got Arizona going into Allen Fieldhouse on Monday and getting a win?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I'm not sold on that yet. Obviously, Arizona's they played so great all season long, and now with the way Kansas is playing,
right?
Especially, man, I mean, look at what they were able to do over these past couple of games. Whether Darren Peterson is on the court or not, but particularly the difference maker that he is when he's on. And you look at that Texas Tech game he had in Lubbock, where it's not like he was shooting lights out, but when the money was on the line, that's what I want to see in my number one overall pick. How do you play in the biggest moments on the road when you get fouled? And you hear what some of those Texas Tech fans were saying to Darren Peterson. He gave that kind of like that nod, like, okay, I hear you. And then, as I mentioned, when clutch time came, back-to-back big threes to put the team on his back, he is such a difference maker. And at any given point or really all the time, he's the best player on the floor. So even as well as Arizona has played this season, man, with them going to Allen Fieldhouse and with Darren Peterson playing the way he is, Floyd Badunga, and the impact that he's made defensively, certainly in the argument for defensive Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, and then Trey White, Melvin Council. This team is getting better at the right time. And that's really what's important for Bill Self and the Kansas Jayhawks. It'll be a really big game as well. Of course, Arizona going to Kansas.
Chancellor, you sat down with UCF point guard Themis Folks, I believe, and talked about his game and UCF's rise. What did you learn from that conversation?
Well, one, just his journey. When we look at how he started out at South Carolina State, then he moved on to Dodge City Community College, and then ended up going to Milwaukee last year, and then now is leading this UCF team is fourth in the nation in assists at 7 assists a game, and scoring 14 points as well. Look at what he was able to do against Arizona, putting a 30 ball on the number one team in the country. And this is a UCF team that is really embracing being the underdog, and that's kind of led by Themis Folks. As I mentioned earlier, you mentioned, I talked about Raleigh Kugel and some of the demeanor and the attitude that they bring, and they have something really fun. I won't say special, but they have something really fun that's brewing in Orlando. And you see the fan base kind of revitalized there, so a certain energy there, and so they're embracing it. I will say, talking to Johnny Dawkins yesterday after the Houston game, he was a little bit disappointed about their effort last night. But as he mentioned, he said we have a lot of new players who aren't used to playing a team like Houston, and that's something that can plague a team where you get punched in the mouth early and you really don't know how to respond, especially at home. But overall, look, it doesn't change the season that UCF has had so far. They'll have some other opportunities, and they'll look to get a bounce back win this week against Cincinnati.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's tough to win on the road in this conference, and they've got two big home wins against Kansas and what's the other BYU they beat?
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech. Thank you. And it feels like the way that Johnny Dawkins built his team this year, Chance, is like the right way with experience. I mean, a guy like Folks who's been around the block, as opposed to going with some of these younger guys, maybe with 4 or 5 stars that are high recruits. Feels like the way that Johnny built his team this year is just much more conducive to winning big.
Especially when you consider in the Big 12, man, because obviously it's unrelentless, and like as I mentioned, we'll probably talk about BYU here in a minute, but the Big 12 comes at you pretty fast. Ask Iowa State, who had the best start in program history at 16-0. Then they dropped back-to-back games, didn't look great in either one of them. And then you look at BYU, now losers of 3 straight. I say all that to say, like, you need that veteran presence, and as I mentioned with UCF, it didn't work out for them last night, but in those moments where they played Arizona really well at home. They weren't able to beat them, and no team this year has, but they played well in that game. You look at what they did against Texas Tech, and Tech beat Houston, as we saw just a couple of weeks ago, and then here Houston is blowing them out by 20. So every game is different here in this league, and that's why you need a certain amount of veteran presence to kind of steady the ship. Never get too high, never get too low. Obviously, we saw that court storm in Orlando, and it was a great win, a signature win for that UCF team. And then you had to turn around on a Wednesday night and play Houston, and then you get thumped, right? But you have another opportunity this week going back home against Cincinnati. So, that veteran presence certainly has helped this UCF team steady the ship and really surpass the expectations that a lot of people predicted. And look, I'm not going to pretend I saw UCF doing this as well, but they've had a really good season. And as I mentioned, I certainly think they're a tournament team.
Is Oklahoma State a tournament team after their win last night? All of a sudden, they have 16 wins. They're 16-5, I believe, or 16-6, but they're 4-5. More importantly, in Big 12 play, that was on paper their first Quad 1 win, but their home win against UCF very well could end up being another Quad 1 win for Oklahoma State. Do you think they are on a path to get in?
It's one of those things that they can kind of control their own destiny, and a lot of those teams that if you're kind of floating around the bubble as we turn the page here at the beginning of February and you're playing this Big 12 schedule, you're going to have opportunities. But they certainly needed that one last night at home, taking on BYU. As you mentioned, they had a good win against UCF that'll trend well for them. They also beat Texas A&M earlier this season, and the Aggies have played well out there at the SEC. So those are their big wins of the season. But as I look at their stretch now, they're going to have to go at least 3-1 over the next 4 games or so, because they take on Arizona at the McKell Center. That's a tough one. So let's just say that they do what all these other teams that have done all season long when they played Arizona and they lose. Well, you better win that one on Tuesday night when you take on Arizona State, a team that if you're Oklahoma State, you got to have that one. You can't lose to Arizona State, even though you're playing on the road, and we know road wins are hard to come by. You have to have that one, and then you have TCU at home, and then Kansas. So if they can get one, if they can go 3-1 throughout this stretch, beating Arizona State, TCU, and if they can clip Kansas, they're right there. And so if you're an Oklahoma State fan, you feel pretty good. Overall, the Cowboys had a good non-conference schedule and run there, but they're going to need some more wins if they really hope to get to the tournament.
I'm curious, how many losses do you think the Big 12 champion will have?
If you look at Arizona, maybe 2.
Yeah.
And you look at what the Wildcats have done all season long, and maybe it's just 1. Like they beat UConn, UCLA, what was it, Alabama. So they're so battle tested that even as they go to Allen Fieldhouse, I'm sure they feel pretty comfortable there. Look how comfortable they looked at BYU up until those last couple of minutes, right? And then they'll come here to Houston. Their schedule is still so tough, but with the way that Arizona's playing right now, you still got Houston that's right there, and we can't forget about Iowa State. As I mentioned earlier, they got back-to-back losses, but ever since then, man, they have been smacking stuff.
Yeah.
Their last 3 out of 4 games, they've won by 30 points. And so, Iowa State was a great story earlier in the season, and then they lose back-to-back games, and people kind of forget about them, but they still only have 2 losses in conference play. They still have to play Arizona. They still have to play Houston. So I don't want to forget about the Cyclones either, and they're a team that can still be a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament as well. So I would say no more than 3, but 2 certainly on the table as well. If maybe Houston and suffers maybe 1 more loss or so, and then you have Arizona as well.
Chancellor Johnson from the Big 12, content creator, basketball enthusiast, joins us here on Big 12 Today. Chancellor, what's your upcoming schedule and maybe some projects you're working on?
Well, right now, man, I did a story on it last week. I'm still trying to figure out who in this conference, when you look about how many great players and how much great talent we have in this conference, man, what's it going to be like come honors season? We're about a month away about who's going to be your Big 12 Player of the Year. Who's going to be all Big 12 first team? Before, I had it up until that Texas Tech Kansas game. I actually had JT Toppin as my Big 12 Player of the Year. And then I wasn't for sure about Darren Peterson, if he would even make Big 12 first team, just because I didn't know if voters were going to vote somebody who was playing, at the time, half games. And then I watched Darren Peterson do what he did against Lubbock, and he went from, I'm not for sure if voters will vote for him over some of the other players, to that's my Big 12 Player of the Year. So as far as what am I working on, trying to figure out, who goes where in certain places. I'm also doing a story on Themis Folks, a little bit more fleshed out, talking about his journey in UCF, and man, just continuing to cover this great conference. It's been such a fun year. And brother, we only are in, it's February 5th.
Right.
Now is the meat of the Big 12 schedule. And so I'm really excited to see how some of these games play out. As you mentioned, Arizona going on the road to Kansas, Arizona coming here to Houston. Houston's has to play Iowa State. We're just getting started, man. And March is only a month away. I can't wait.
Yeah, this month is going to be incredible when it comes to the matchups. Chancellor, always appreciate your time. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, guys.
Chancellor Johnson, Big 12 analyst, content creator for the Big 12, has a great snippet of his extended conversation with UCF point guard Themis Folks on X, Twitter. Chancellor Johnson with the Big 12 joins us each and every week. Coming up next year on Big 12 Today, let's get it on. Taman has the topics. We've got the takes and debates. It's Let's Get It On around the corner.
Center, and getting the start for Arizona. He's been a winner, no doubt about it. Arizona starters, Milani Cornfield, Smith, Sugapong, Taniel Welch, MJ Hirado, and Patty Adebanjo. And how about Cornfield off the glass?
I don't
Quick
know how she
4-0
scored
lead.
in there. Because
spent so much time together that even their families are friends now. And she was telling me that since they both moved to the United States to start playing some Big 12 basketball, they've kept in touch. That it's so nice to have a friend who's living out those same experiences. And
from different players, but their ball movement's been excellent. And Adebanjo, my goodness, The freshman stepping up.
Oh my goodness. And coming the other way is Cornfield with the finish.
Wow, what a basket in transition.
Really celebrating the terrific play out on the floor. And how about coming out of the timeout and tearing sides for the freshman?
Unbelievable energy, but to do that in the open court as a post player.
And how about Neal coming right back? Speaking of play in the post.
She was there with Addie Adebanjo and said, I'll take it.
Adebanjo in the paint. No good. Falls her own miss. Gets the putback. And the ball movement continues. Looks like Arizona's going to be able to run out the clock. And the Arizona Wildcats and Becky Burke snap a 6-game losing streak, get their second.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Also want to remind you that Big 12 has some big championships coming up in wrestling and gymnastics. With wrestling, the Big 12 Conference Wrestling Tournament is back at the BOK Center this year in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The championship, which is presented by Allstate, will be Friday, March 6th and Saturday, March 7th. That's in the heart of downtown Tulsa. Some of the best wrestlers in the country vie for a Big 12 championship. Seating in the NCAA championships and tickets and premium hospitality are available now at bokcenter.com/events or big12sports.com. That's in Tulsa, March 6th and March 7th. This is our Let's Get It On segment. He's Ari, I'm James. Taman has the topics, and we debate.
Let's get it on! All right, guys.
Thank you, Mills.
Yes. All right, guys. I have my first topic, and I was thinking about it with college football. We were talking about our transfer series, but it made me start to think, which quarterback will have a better year in 2026? Brendan Sorsby of Texas Tech or Bear Bachmeier of BYU?
Define better.
Ooh, who will we look at and say, yeah, Bear Bachmeier or Brendan Sorsby, they're looking at Heisman consideration.
See what he did there, Taman? He bought time, and the turntables have turned.
I mean, it's like statistically better team output. Go ahead, you can start us off.
And what was Taman's answer?
Who would be
statistically? My answer is when we generally look at who will be fighting for, who will be considered like a Heisman type of quarterback, who will we be looking at?
Okay, I gotcha. My answer is both. I'd love to say both, but if I had to lean one way or the other, I think they're both going to be playing in the Big 12 championship game. They're both going to be two of the most talked about quarterbacks in the country. I'm that excited about what both can do. I actually lean Bear Bachmeier. Brendan Sorsby's going to have more around him in terms of talent, but Bear Bachmeier still has plenty of dudes with L.J. Martin at running back, Parker Kingston at wide receiver. This kid they brought in from Utah State in the portal was one of the most coveted, 4-star wide receivers in the country from Utah State. And if you look at Bear's game log, it got significantly better as the season went along, where the last 2 years Sorsby has had regression. So I think I'm more high ceiling on Bear Bachmeier, who threw for a season-high 325 yards in the last time he took the field in the bowl game.
I'm so thankful that you picked Bear Bachmeier here, which gave me the opportunity to argue on behalf of Brendan Sorsby, who's I think he's got a lot to prove this year. And for that reason, just from a motivational standpoint, I think the answer is him. He's going to have more around him, and not just from a offensive line, wide receiver, running back situation, but I think a play caller as well. It felt like with Cincinnati, a lot of it was on him, especially down the stretch of the season. So he's got a lot to prove. He's very motivated, and he's trying to get to the league. He wants to prove that he's a legitimate NFL quarterback, and so far in his career, he hasn't done that. I also think the fact that Cameron Dickey and Quentin Joyner and Jacoby Williams are all back at running back, with his ability to run the football, he's going to be extremely dynamic running the ball all year, and they're going to run some option, I'd imagine, or a lot of zone read stuff that will get him kind of out in motion with those guys. So I love the opportunity that Sorsby has with this roster.
All right, topic number 2, and this should be interesting. So NBA superstar Cooper Flagg and Darren Peterson of Kansas are the same age. They're weeks apart. So if the draft,
Did you just refer to him as NBA superstar Cooper Flagg?
I did. He's averaging.
How many wins do the Mavs have?
Listen, the Mavs aren't good, but he's good. But I have to say, if there was a draft tonight, if you could redo it, if Cooper Flagg was in college again, who you picking number 1? Cooper Flagg or Darren Peterson?
Yeah, this isn't even a question. It's Darren Peterson all day.
So I had a call with a guy from ESPN the other day, and he laughed in my face. He said, "You guys are nuts." So, have you seen Cooper Flagg? I mean, he was all full lean Cooper Flagg, who's playing the point. To be fair, he's been incredible. He's a 6'9" point forward who just dropped a 47-point game. He's averaging over 30 points per game in the last month. His stats are there, elite talent. But I'm with you on Peterson.
Well, you got to argue on the other side, because I'm arguing with Darren Peterson.
Okay, you go first then.
No, you just made the argument. That was great. Good job.
Right. Yeah.
The ESPN guy said, "Have you watched Cooper Flagg?" Which your response should have been, "Have you watched Darren Peterson?" He's the most efficient scorer we've ever seen at this level. Cooper Flagg wasn't that efficient scoring the basketball at this level. Darren Peterson is. Far be it for me to argue on behalf of Darren Peterson, because I'd like him to play more. But in the few minutes that he has, the dude is incredibly efficient. He gets to his spots. No, I mean, I don't know if Cooper Flagg would go 6th in this draft, but
let's get it on.
3rd or 4th, maybe?
I think he'd go 2nd or 3rd. Maybe DeBonsa would go in front of him. But like what he's done the last 3 games, he's gone for 49, 34, and 36 points. He's had double-digit rebounds in 2 of those 3, 9 in the other, and he's dishing out 5 or 6 assists. Like what the tear that he's on puts him in a different camp, I think, with what we think Darren Peterson's going to do at the NBA level. Like this excites me more for how good Peterson can be in that open, free-flowing style of play.
Correct. And by the way, the Mavs have nobody else to score. Somebody has to score points. It's got to be Flag. So, yeah, I mean, look. And then plus, I mean, the fact that he went to Duke, like, he was so overinflated last year. You would have thought he was the second coming of... Yeah.
All right, I'm looking forward to this next topic because...
My 10-year-old son, Asher, he was watching the game and there's Duke was on. He's like, Duke, that sounds like a Royal. It sounds like a very stuck-up school. I was like, yep, you nailed it.
Yeah.
Without having any context, so you nailed it.
Flag's averaging 20 per game this year. What's Edgecombe averaging? BJ Edgecombe is scoring 15 or 16. So Cooper Flag's the leading scorer among rookies.
The rookie race has mostly been between Cooper Flag and Con Knuppel.
Yeah, Knuppel.
Oh, okay. What's he averaging?
19, I believe, okay. 18 or 19.
Peterson's going to be a 25-point-per-game guy immediately in his rookie year.
Yep. He's going to look great in a Bulls uniform.
Let's get it on! All right, my next topic. I can't wait to get Ari's take on this.
Gosh, can you imagine the comps if he went to the Bulls?
I can't wait to get Ari's take on this. Who has been the more impactful freshman at Kansas this season? Now, take everything into consideration. Is it Darren Peterson or is it Jalea Davis on the women's side?
Yeah, so I mean, Jalea Davis has been spectacular this year, but the issue is that Kansas women's basketball is 14-10 and 12th in the Big 12. So, I don't know what the situation looks like moving forward with Brandon Schneider. He's done a really good job in recruiting. I mean, Jalea Davis is a good example of that. She's averaging 21 points a game, 6 rebounds. She's been as good as expected, if not better. But this team is not very good. So if the question is who's been the more impactful freshman, I'd say it's Darren Peterson. Peterson, in a game that was lost, comes off the bench, is fouled on a 3-point shot, allows Kansas to beat TCU, and then he single-handedly beats Texas Tech with 2 shots in that game, a 3 to tie the game and a 3 to win it. So Jalea Davis has been spectacular, but Kansas women's basketball has not been good. They're 12th in the Big 12 right now. That's not good enough.
No, it's not. So if I'm making the case for Jalea Davis, I'll lean into the fact that she plays as many minutes as anybody else in the Big 12. So she's on the floor for the full 40, whereas Darren Peterson plays when he wants to play.
Yeah.
They're very different players. You know, she's a post player, hasn't taken a 3 all year, but her numbers are incredible. Like you said, over 20 points per game, 65% from the field, 74% from the foul line, and she gets there a ton and knocks them down. And so making the case for Jalea, it would be the fact that, number one, she's on the floor. Number two, where would her team be without her? We've seen what Kansas men's basketball is capable of when Darren Peterson's not out there. On the women's side, I'm not sure Kansas would have a win on their schedule anywhere if she was sidelined and on the bench.
And look, I mean, 29 against BYU, 30 against TCU, 36 against Arizona, 37 against Oklahoma State, 34 against Utah. She's a beast.
Walking bucket, 29 points in 28 minutes last night. All right, final topic, guys.
That's a Darren Peterson efficiency.
Yeah, she's really good.
28 and 12 last night.
Yeah. She's really good. All right, final topic. We're staying in women's basketball, at least. So which team will win the Big 12 in women's basketball? Will it be TCU or Baylor? And may I note, they are both tied for first currently.
I lean Baylor. I'll take the Baylor stance. You know, TCU is tops in the Big 12 in scoring defense. Now, this takes all games into account, so it includes the non-conference. Baylor played a more challenging non-conference schedule, and then I look at what have you done for me lately. Well, Baylor's loss was at West Virginia. West Virginia is an absolute beast at home. Meanwhile, TCU lost to Texas Tech, and then they have another loss to it wasn't Utah. That was on the men's side. But when I look at, like, who can go get you a bucket in the closing minutes, it comes down to Olivia Miles or Talia Scott. And I've just been more impressed with Talia Scott and what she's done. She's the second leading scorer in the Big 12. But these two teams are neck and neck. Like, they're top 2 in the league in field goal percentage defense, but Baylor leads the Big 12 in 3-point field goal percentage defense. Teams cannot get clean looks against Baylor's length on the perimeter. They're holding teams to just 23% from beyond the arc, which is TCU's bread and butter and could be a problem for them.
So you're going TCU?
Baylor.
That's what I thought. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, but the easy answer here is TCU. Come on. I mean, they've got arguably the 2 best players in the league, in Olivia Miles and Marta Suarez. Plus, just looking at the rest of the schedule, like, so West Virginia, we had Ann O'Neill on this week. She said West Virginia's the best team in the league. Well, West Virginia and TCU play at TCU in February. So just looking at who they have, who these teams have left in terms of, will TCU win or lose any more games? At Baylor coming up, that'll basically decide the conference. They also close out March 1st, last game of the regular season against Baylor. So this is a great question. Because Baylor TCU still play twice, and Baylor and TCU still gets West Virginia at home. So really, I think any of those 3 teams can win this conference. But I'll argue for TCU because of how good Suarez has been, how good Miles has been, and the fact that they still get 2 cracks at Baylor and West Virginia at home.
Wow, and the league scheduled Baylor and TCU for the final regular season night, March 1st. It is the last Big 12 regular season date on the calendar, and you get Baylor at TCU. Now, they play here in 7 days in 1 week in Waco, so they're going to play twice in the last 3 weeks of the season. Just must-see TV. Beautiful job.
The question is whether or not Baylor will lose twice.
They do have to play at Texas Tech. That's the one where they could slip up.
Right. And remember, the other tough game for TCU is West Virginia at TCU.
All right, they got the friendlier schedule. Schmedule. All right, great job. Who won, Taman?
I think on each topic there's a little bit of a difference.
I won, James. It's obvious. I think it's obvious.
I'm asking Taman.
You know what? I'm gonna go with James today. I'm gonna go with James. I think I did Ari like the last 2.
Yeah, he's just alternating.
Have Anthony shoot.
I'm gonna go with
really
James.
won. Come on. All right, the man wearing the Snuggie. All right, coming up next, National Signing Day was actually yesterday. Believe it or not. National Signing Day, some Big 12 programs added like a dozen new players. This used to be the event in college football, and now it's an afterthought. But it means the final recruiting classes are locked in. Then we'll also break down some other stuff that we started on yesterday, kind of putting a bow on the college football season. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio.
Orange. 12 women's basketball underway in Tempe. Girls will get out and push. They're so good at shooting the 3, and they shoot a ton of them. And a lay-in on the right side for Akat.
She is 0 for 4 tonight. Her team 1 for 11.
Koa. Contact and the foul. Can't get that one to finger roll in.
Good offense.
Transition. Akat wide open. Sun Devils don't get back after turning the ball over.
Doing a great job of playing through a lot of contact.
Wide open. Koa at the buzzer. Bang! Sun Devils take the lead to the halftime locker room. Dunes on the dribble drive. Stops, pops, and pure.
And that's what Arizona State doesn't want to do, start giving Oklahoma State second shots.
Atkins from the elbow. She does not miss those.
She's feeling it.
Backdoor Elliott is wide open.
Now we're probably looking at Gabby going on her ISO.
Ray guarding her. Turn around.
Good shot.
It took a full 2 seconds off the clock on that review. Wooten in the lane. A foul is called. And one. She gets the bucket to go.
10, 20 points below their average. If you're watching Oklahoma State for the first time, you are not seeing them as this explosive transition team.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, streaming on your screen on Big 12 Studios. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, and Big 12 Gymnastics, bless you.
Thank you.
Big 12 Championship Gymnastics return to the Maverick Center in West Valley City. We're going out to Utah, and tickets for the Big 12 Gymnastics Championship presented by Allstate are now on sale. That'll start Saturday, March 21st. The afternoon session will start at 1 p.m. Central Time on that day, and you can get your tickets at maverickcenter.com. Be part of Big 12 Gymnastics in West Valley City. All right, yesterday was National Signing Day.
What?
National Signing Day? Yeah, college football, it still exists.
You know, it's funny because we did the show and then didn't talk about it at all. The first Wednesday in February used to be a huge deal.
Huge.
Like, when this show started, I want to say the first year of Big 12 radio, there was no early signing period. It's like first Wednesday in February is a huge deal. They talk about the jokes about the fax machines, and all day you'd have coaches hanging out around the fax machine, seeing which letters of intent came through.
Well, and you'd have a lot of guys that would flip their commitments on that day.
Tons. I mean, this was the biggest day in the off-season calendar in college football, and in many cases, the biggest day of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did the show yesterday, didn't even mention it, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's how far we've come, where the early signing period is basically the signing period.
Obsolete.
And that first Wednesday in February is obsolete.
Yeah, totally. And so the final recruiting rankings have rounded into form, right? And the Big 12 finishes, according to 24/7 Sports Composite Team Rankings, with 3 teams in the top 25, which is 3 more than the Big 12 had last year. Remember, baby step in this thing. Texas Tech at number 17 with 21 commitments, BYU at number 21, and rounding out the top 25 is West Virginia, who had 3 4-stars and a top 25 recruiting class. Let me ask you this just real quick. Would you rather win signing day in December, the portal cycle, or this very, very late signing?
Signing day in December. That's where 90% of the recruits are signing. But West Virginia did add a commitment from a kid that flipped from Penn State, Matt Sieg, and a running back from Wisconsin, Amari Latimer. So Rich Rod did a really good job. Yeah. We talked about in the transfer portal updates with West Virginia that their approach of adding guys that maybe didn't have as much experience, does that work? Whereas UCF, like we compared and contrasted, UCF went and found a bunch of guys from smaller schools that had produced. Feels like Rich Rod took a different approach. Now we'll see, because historically West Virginia has lost a lot of those guys. Like West Virginia's been the type of feeder system for other bigger programs that you don't want to be. So hopefully they could keep these big recruits that they've added to be a top 25 class, but then not only that, in the portal too.
I think they have potential to take a major step forward this year. Expect them to be a bowl team. All right, let's hear from some of the coaches. Kalani Sitake at BYU, they finished with a top 25 class, number 21, 17 commitments. Kalani Sitake, their head coach, explaining how the team was able to retain all these key players that could have been in the portal.
Well, I don't know if there's one thing that kept them here. It's the overall experience of being at BYU. You have to give – there's a bunch of variables that go into it, and the fans, the connection to the fans, the opportunity to be at BYU and represent something that's unique and different than anywhere else in college football, the mentoring that they get from not just the athletic department, but from all over, and when you're talking about faculty and staff, and just the connections and even the networking that you have with alumni. I mean, when you put all that together, I think it's really difficult to turn this place down. And I wish I could take credit for it all, but honestly, we have a lot of cool things here, and I know exactly why people should stick around.
And people did stick around. They lost a couple of guys in the portal, but I think a major net positive. And then you look at their recruiting class, which featured 2 5-star kids in the tight end and the quarterback, Ryder Lyons. Both of them will have a 1-year mission, so they'll be on the field in 2027 in a big way as 19, 20-year-old freshmen for BYU. And then L.J. Martin coming back. He would have been probably third or fourth round NFL running back had he entered the NFL draft, and now he's going to be a guy who showed last year. He battled injuries 2 years ago, but last year, he showed he can be the workhorse back for BYU.
Yeah, no, I mean, and look, the fact that Jay Hill went to Michigan and they didn't really lose much on defense says a lot about what we just heard Kalani Sitake talk about. I think from a coaching perspective, there's a ton that he does, obviously, that we know that makes him elite. The family atmosphere, I think they have, at BYU, you kind of have everything you need. There's just a lot there. That's the proof's in the pudding.
24 wins in the last 2 years certainly helps. Now, Houston is a team that we have our eye on. They had a really nice transfer.
Let me ask you this, because I kind of stopped short and I was thinking through what I was going to say.
Okay.
What do you think are the biggest factors that keep guys at schools? Because there's some schools that have a ton of turnover that lose a bunch of guys. There's some schools that don't. We talked last couple of years about how Lance Leipold had lost the fewest amount of guys since he'd been there. I think that changed a little bit this year. But what do you think of the factors?
I think winning helps. I think when it comes to a lot of the schools where guys depart, I think it's broken promises, where whether those promises were made by the coaches or by an agent or the player just believing something that maybe they've put in their own head to the point where it feels like a broken promise. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I wonder how much winning helps, and maybe winning helps to a degree, because I also think winning, it's like the old Pat Riley, the law of more. When you win, people want more. They want more playing time. They want more money. But I think there's probably an element of just the chemistry of the team in winning at BYU that helps in that way. I don't think full stop that winning helps as much as having the right chemistry and group together that's holding guys accountable. That's hey, you're staying here, right? We want to keep doing this. You're a big part of that. That kind of stuff I think helps a lot. But I think you're exactly right. Broken promises. And that's a very broad way to say, maybe somebody heard something, maybe somebody, it's not necessarily that it was a broken promise on the part of the coach or the assistants, but there's just a lot of, hey, I thought I was going to get this and I'm only getting that.
Right.
And it feels like at BYU there's a lot of non-broken promises.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And that was magnified when Kalani Sitake told the team he was staying versus taking the Penn State job. Remember, this offseason, their coach almost left. Or at least that was the narrative that was out there.
Yeah.
I think it was all leverage. And just to see the team rally behind Sitake, they like playing for the guy. And he's a very likable guy. Another guy that's very likable in this league, Willie Fritz, the head coach at Houston. They won 10 games last year. They're going to return 17 or 18 starters, both sides of the ball combined. And they had a really nice portal class. Here's what he said about, can Houston really be a team that competes eventually for a national championship?
I got to do a great job of helping us fundraise, to build up our NIL program, to get into, middle of the pack. We just want to be close. We're going to be close. We'll do a great job of being highly competitive. But I really believe you can win a national championship here at the University of Houston. That's an area that we got to improve on in order to win a national championship, which is our goal.
So Willie Fritz is saying if you can get us with NIL to the middle of the pack, and I'm assuming he's talking Big 12 nationally, that he can win a national championship. Do you buy it?
Great question. I mean, look at this recruiting class, right? And, I'm not sure that Houston offered Keyshawn Henderson the most money that he could have gotten had he gone to, I'm sure Texas A&M, some of the local schools offered a lot more.
Unless you wanted him.
It feels like the answer is yes. I mean, Indiana just did it, right? Indiana was not at the top of the food chain in terms of NIL. Now, they're higher than a lot of others, and that's just the nature of the beast based on the revenues they bring in. I'd love to see that, true NIL budgets. Where's Indiana? I'm assuming they're higher than most. Are they higher than Texas Tech? It's clear there's not a straight line between money and winning, but there's also not a, there is there's a certain amount of money you need to win, clearly.
Right.
But it's not a straight line. So do I see Houston winning a national championship in football? No. But based on what Willie Fritz has done in 2 years, based on this recruiting class that he's brought in, it's hard not to believe what he says to be true. Guy could coach football. We knew that coming in. I mean, I thought that was going to be a great hire, and it's been. And then it's about finding the right guys that understand the value that university brings relative to, not just NIL, but like opportunity. It feels like there's like a bidding war that you just don't want to be involved with in this, that a lot of schools kind of find themselves in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I think like there's not a straight line between spending and winning, right? Like at the end of the day, if there's a guy where it's like we have to have him, whatever it takes, I just don't buy that's got to be the case. And I wouldn't want to be a school that's got to always play that game.
Mm-hmm. Willie Fritz has won everywhere he's been. Blinn Junior College, he won a national championship when Michael Bishop was his quarterback, who's now an offensive assistant and was Keyshawn Henderson's high school coach. He won at Tulane. He won at Georgia Southern before he got the Tulane job, and now he's winning at Houston. He has won everywhere he has been. If you look at his year-by-year coaching record, the only downtick that he's had anywhere was during COVID. At Tulane, they were 2-10 right after COVID. They got wiped out. Outside of that, he's gone 4 wins, 5 wins, 6 wins, 8 wins, 10 wins, everywhere he's been. And he's doing it at Houston, and I think he's ahead of schedule based off of from 4 to 10. So I'm excited about what they do this season.
Yeah, and it's a great question. How much money do you have to spend in order to win? There's no hard number.
Right.
But, I mean, it is interesting.
Was Indiana a top 25 roster? Were they a top 50 roster? Were they a top 75 roster?
I bet they were top 25.
Think so?
Yeah. But I also think, at some point there's diminishing returns. It's the old thing of the NFL where, guys in contract years can have great seasons and then they get paid and they're not as good. How motivated are you to be great? Some guys, the money doesn't matter. Some guys, the money matters. Makes you fat and happy. Everybody's different. And it is interesting. There's this balance there between keeping guys completely motivated to get more, to get to the NFL, get more money. But then other guys are motivated by greatness. And those are the types of guys you want.
Yeah. Well
That's
said.
what Indiana found.
Very well said. All right, down in Stillwater at Oklahoma State, head coach Eric Morris really speaking to the media for the first time on the heels of National Signing Day. He has brought in some studs, a lot of them from North Texas, but also even outside of that North Texas ecosystem, they did a phenomenal job in the portal, and they finish with the top 10 portal class, not collectively, but just based off of transfers alone, according to the composite rankings. Here's what Eric Morris said about what he's done to assemble his coaching staff and kind of construct this team, his blueprint.
Yeah, I think, the last 2 months basically has been all about constructing a new roster. I think anytime you have 81 new players, which might be a record in college football, I don't know, some of you guys probably know that better than me. But it's something, we've been used to it on a little bit of a smaller scale at North Texas the last couple of years. I think after year one, we had 74 new players. Last year, 65, I think. And so it's not abnormal, I think, to have the big turnover in college football right now. Now, this is going to be a little bit larger than hopefully what we have in the future. Hopefully this is something great to build on. But I think when we looked at this from the get-go, is we needed to add some pieces that have played a lot of football on this team. And as we got into doing that, that's something that I think our coaches were able to do really effectively. When we look at the number of snaps played, and then really, we want our roster to be in a good spot, as far as seniors to juniors, sophomores to freshmen. That way, when we start building the program, hopefully, you're able to take 20 to 25 high school kids every single year, which is something that we'll strive to do here.
So he spent 3 years as the head coach at North Texas. And at first, when he got the job, and he noted there during that clip that he lost over 70 players each year in the portal at North Texas. And I thought that was a major red flag. Why are guys leaving his program when they've been pretty good? And then it took some time to realize that
that's a reality for most of those programs.
And those
UTSA, yeah.
And those guys were transferring up. Is my point. They weren't making lateral moves.
Right.
So he has a tremendous eye for talent.
Yeah, at that level, just look at we did the portal season updates, and you're talking about a lot of guys that transfer up. The Big 12 and Big 12 schools are in a very good position relative to everybody else because, like there's only a handful of kids that play in the Big 12 that are going to transfer up. Whereas that's the norm in the American Athletic Conference and Conference USA in the Sun Belt, right? I mean, that is the norm. You get to a certain level of play, and they're all coming after you. I mean, there's going to be guys drafted in April that played at Ohio State this year that transferred from Ohio and different, group of 6 schools that didn't have a ton of production, but just saw the opportunity they had to get to a bigger school to then put themselves in position to get drafted. So everybody's looking to get theirs. And that's the reality, which is the reason why Eric Morris had a team playing for the conference or the American Athletic Conference Championship and played against another guy that was going to a bigger school. All these coaches want to get to bigger schools so they can be the destination. They don't want to be the feeder system. I mean, it's Jeff Traylor. I'm sure he wished he would have gotten out years ago because he deals with that every year. The roster churn is so real at that level. I mean, the Big 12 has guys that leave, but it's a handful. Think about the all American Athletic Conference teams are littered with guys that are transferring up. Mm-hmm. Conference USA, Sun Belt, all those guys are looking for theirs. So, I mean, 81 new players. How many of those guys are guys that played North Texas with him, played at Conference USA, played American Athletic Conference? Big 12's in a good position from that standpoint.
And the Big 12, when you look at the rankings year over year, massive uptick this year to last year. Last year, the Big 12 had nobody in the top 25. The highest rated recruiting class was like number 27. There was 1 or 2 teams in the top 35. This year, you have 3 of the top 25 recruiting classes in the country.
Great point.
And you have 5 of the top 35. I mean, it is blue chip ratio, all that stuff. The Big 12 collectively a step up from what it was a season ago.
And I hate to keep going to the well of like what Texas and Oklahoma used to bring to the conference, but it feels more and more as we get down the road like those 2 programs held the rest of the conference back to where once they leave, now the conference can kind of fly free by itself. Mm-hmm. Because you think about like draft picks. Texas and Oklahoma fans would always say like, well, we're the only team getting high draft picks, right? And then look at what happened last year's draft. This year's draft will be no different. There will be at least 3 to 4 players drafted in the first round of the Big 12.
Mel Kiper has 3 in the top 10, I believe.
3 in the top. So, and then recruiting classes, same kind of deal. Like, oh, we're the only. Texas OU would always say like we're the only ones that recruit at a high level, and it's like once they leave, suddenly there's opportunities for other programs to blossom and flourish. Mm-hmm. It feels more and more like Texas and Oklahoma held the rest of the Big 12 back, and so once they leave, they just become Jags in the SEC. And meanwhile, the Big 12 has a bunch of teams that are ready to flourish. Texas Tech's obviously one of them, but I mean, Arizona State. And here's the other thing, too, and I think this is really important. So we talk about money. Kenny Dillingham is now really deep into really trying to engage donors. Eric Morris is in the early stages of it. Rich Rod's moving a little bit. But, they're all in I don't want to say a race because they're not racing against each other. They're racing internally because you've got guys that have money that are donors that look at this and like, I don't want to get involved in this, right? So there's a ton of money at all these schools, and it's their job to engage those people in a way that's meaningful because many of them haven't been involved in a meaningful way for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And that's like, Morris is at the starting line right now. Dillingham's running the race and seems like doing a great job. Obviously, Texas Tech is far ahead of everybody in this race they're running. But like every coach is tasked with engaging the donors in a way that's meaningful to them so that they can not be at the top. I mean, it's what Willie Fritz was doing, right? Like, you're not going to get to Texas Tech level. Very few will. But you get to the middle of the Big 12, now that's meaningful. And now you don't necessarily lose the guys you don't want to lose.
In Houston, by the way, if that's the benchmark to be middle of the pack, they hit it this year. The 6th highest rated recruiting class in the conference out of 16 teams with 18 commitments, 2 4-stars, and a 5-star quarterback in Keyshawn Henderson. All right, coming up next, we grab Shahan Jayaraja, national college football writer for CBS Sports. He'll join us live on the program. Goes through his Big 12 offseason football power rankings. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo here exclusively on TuneIn.
A very good Baylor defensive unit. Cincinnati will have their hands full tonight, but they've already beaten a top 20 program in Iowa State in this building a couple of weeks ago. So Johnson, Van Geitenbeek, Littlepage Bugs, and Fauntleroy. Van Geitenbeek for three. Mentioned Fauntleroy, she had a...
And their depth to their advantage, trying to wear Baylor out with fresh energy.
Off the back leg, Maya Perry connects.
To make any adjustments, right down the court, finds a little gap and a pull-up J.
Step back for Scott, and she drains it again.
Line waiting for the ball to enter in her hands. She knew she was going to shoot it.
Crawford answers right back.
That's what, and a strong, solid move through a lot of defensive contact by Abraham.
Scott, nothing but net from long range. Against West Virginia on Sunday, Cincinnati trying to do the same after a loss against Houston on Sunday. Scott lets it fly. Cincinnati beats it with a combination of Bird and Thomas playing catch.
We've seen Cincinnati be able to shut down Baylor defensively.
Scott right to the rim. Rebound, Crawford. Time not on Cincinnati's side here. Perry lets it go. It's good. A line drive shot and it falls for Perry. It's out of bounds. They call it off of Perry into the front court. And it's way off, and that's it. Now, Cincinnati gave it a good fight, but it's not enough in the end. Baylor holds on the road, 76-60, a 20th win for the Baylor Bears.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. With Ari Timken, I'm James Westling, and we are brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn, watching us on Big 12 Studios and the Big 12 Studios Fast channel. Shahan Jayaraja from CBS has his Big 12 football power rankings out for the 2026 season. Who are the favorites in the league, and who are the teams that he thinks will be at the bottom? Shahan joins us now to break it all down. Hey, Shahan, good morning.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Man, thanks for coming on. It is list season, and you go right to the core with your football power rankings. I guess take us through behind the scenes how you put this list together, because yesterday was National Signing Day. You've got the portal. Are you looking at depth charts? Are you looking at who teams bring in, coaching changes? What factors were at play?
I mean, I'll tell you what, if anybody has any depth charts to share with me, I'd love to see them, because there is nothing out there right about now when it comes to trying to work through these rosters. But that's a big part of it, right? So for me as an individual, like I always love returning production. I always love guys who have been in the system for multiple years. I always love coaching staffs that are consistent. I mean, in this world of college football, I think that being able to work through some consistency is a big deal. I know that I drew the ire of some Iowa State fans for ranking them last. But, it's just as simple as that, right? It's a staff that's never worked together fully. It's a roster that's never worked together fully. They brought over some guys, especially on defense, but, you just don't even know how these offensive players are going to fit together. So I definitely value, sort of consistency. When there isn't consistency, because, of course, that's kind of the reality now, I kind of look at a couple of different things, right? One is, what level of returning production do you have? Yes. But also, what is the caliber of guy that you brought in over the offseason, be it through the transfer portal, be it, through high school recruiting as well. And on top of that, I mean, I think a big part of especially competing in the Big 12 is trying to figure out which teams have individual units that have a chance to be all conference caliber. So, I think about, obviously, Texas Tech, loses a lot of players, but they also brought in a quarterback who has a chance to be an all-conference player in Brendan Sorsby. So, you're kind of trying to balance all of those things, and the reality is this is probably as unscientific a power ranking as you will find, just because of all of the dynamics that you have to take into account.
Right. What fan base, Shahan, took most exception to your list?
Oh, it was Iowa State, for sure. Iowa State. I had them at number 16 on my list. And I want to be clear about this, right? This is a power ranking. This is about your current existential state. I actually think there's a pretty good chance that Iowa State is not the worst team in the league. But when you look at how much they have to change up compared to last year. I mean, this is a developmental program. It isn't one that, is wheeling and dealing, and I think they spent very good money in the portal. Don't get me wrong, but it isn't the sort of program where you're just obviously they're going to fill in every single hole. They're a program that I think is always going to be a little bit more of a slow burn. And, they brought in some guys that I really like. Jalen Raynor, the quarterback coming over from Arkansas State, I think is an underrated player. A couple of guys on the offensive line that I really liked. A couple swings on defense as well. But it's just that they have no baseline right now is the biggest thing when you're trying to evaluate them as sort of a long-term power ranked team. And so I had them last. Certainly Iowa State fans were not super happy about that. I got a little bit of mess from Cincinnati fans who thought we lost Brendan Sorsby, but we have a lot else kind of to be excited about. 3 offensive linemen coming back, and they pointed out I picked them at number 11 last year in my power rankings. Well, I will point out Cincinnati finished number 10, so I wasn't super off on them back then as well.
Shahan, what do you like about Houston at number 3?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that this is one of those things where you almost just trust the coach over just the roster details, right? And there's a lot I like, don't get me wrong, about the roster. Connor Wigman heading into his second year as a full-time starting quarterback. I think that they've upgraded their receiver position. I think that they still should be really good on the defensive side of the ball. But, let's be really clear about this, right? I thought that Houston's roster last year was just okay, and they won 10 games. What Willie Fritz does is just unbelievable. And when you compare them to almost every other team outside of that top 2, I think that to me, Texas Tech, BYU, they're on a different level right now, at least, than everybody else. When you look at everybody else, I mean, I think that Houston absolutely has the possibility with their high-level coaching of rising to the top. The exciting dynamic coming in is the addition of Keyshawn Henderson, the number one player in the country. He's a quarterback. I think that they're going to use him in a lot of different ways because they, of course, bring back their starting quarterback as well. So just really excited about what this team can continue to be on offense. I think the growth after making a coordinator change from year 1 to year 2 on offense was huge. I think they're going to take another step in year 3 as well.
So I made the case that BYU should be the favorite in the Big 12 over Texas Tech just based on the continuity of what they bring back, whereas Texas Tech's replacing a bunch of guys. Now, obviously, Texas Tech has continuity of their coaching staff, and Jay Hill's gone on the defensive side, but kind of curious for your thoughts on that as you have Texas Tech 1 and BYU 2.
Well, two things I'll say to that, right? One is, from a power ranking perspective, right, like, I give Texas Tech that credit for being the team that did it last year, right?
Yeah,
so that's certainly a factor. This isn't solely sort of like where I see the league shaking out 1 through 16, although obviously that's a huge part of it. But, the other thing too is that I think that there is, whether fair or not, a question about whether BYU can break through that top level. And, we've seen them get to that top level. They won 11 and 12 games the past 2 years. And then obviously against sort of the elite competition, they weren't able to finish the job. Well, I think that that's going to sort of be the big question with them coming into this year too, right? Is, you bring back Bear Bachmeier. I mean, LJ Martin, I think might be, there's a really good chance he's the best returning player in the Big 12 at running back. Defensively, I think this team is still going to be really, really good. I mean, the players like that they have coming back, Isaiah Glasker, Felatau, Satuala, like really, really good players. This could be one of the league's best defenses, but I think that you look at what Texas Tech brought in. I think they're going to be a lot better offensively with Brendan Sorsby coming in. The biggest dynamic that I don't think people are talking about is that it really is almost impossible to rebuild an offensive line in 1 year. The teams that have been able to do it are actually ones who have guys for 2 years.
Yeah.
And Texas Tech is heading into year 2 with a lot of these same offensive linemen. I think that is a hugely underrated component of what this team can be. And also, by the way, even if you want to say why this team struggled against Oregon in their last game of the season. Defensively, I don't think that they're going to obviously be as good as they were last year, but I think that they're going to be really good at linebacker. I think they're going to be really good on the back end. We'll see what their defensive line can be. I just think that this is going to continue to be, at least for the moment, the class of the league. And the blessing and the curse about is that these two teams don't play in the regular season, so we're probably going to get that battle again in Arlington.
Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports going over his Big 12 offseason power rankings. And you note that, it could be a season of transition in the Big 12 with at least 10 teams that'll break in new quarterbacks. And then coaching mainstays like Mike Gundy and Chris Kleiman and Matt Campbell and Kyle Whittingham are off to different schools or off to new adventures, as you note. But then also 22 of the 28 position players on the All-Big 12 first team are no longer in the league. So what does that say about how open it could be? Or is it kind of next man up in terms of what that first team All-Big 12 might look like, in your opinion? Or is it more newcomers in the league?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of newcomers, right? I mean, obviously some really good players are back, and even when you mentioned, of course, guys leaving their current schools, I mean, we have situations too with to talk Texas Tech again, Brendan Sorsby at quarterback, Austin O'Man at linebacker. That might be two of their best players, and they came from Big 12 schools and obviously stayed in the Big 12 at Texas Tech. But, I do think it's going to be a lot of new additions, and, that's for a couple of reasons, right? One is I think that a lot of guys who are maybe next in line to move up. I mean, I look at an Iowa State, right, who we talked about. A lot of guys who I think would have been all-conference first team in 2026 are now playing at Penn State. And then there are other examples of, whether it be the level of guys who you have transferring in, right? I mean, I think that quarterback's going to be fascinating. You have a Brendan Sorsby, you have a Bear Bachmeier. There's so many different guys who I think will have a chance to nudge themselves into that all-conference first team discussion. Jaden Craig at TCU is a player coming over from Harvard that I think people are pretty excited about. Avery Johnson, can he take that step? So I think it's just going to be a very wide open year where you have this collection of high-level newcomers, certainly, like there was last year, by the way, and also some guys that maybe you're thinking, can they hit the top of their development curve?
By the way, I love that hat, Shahan. That hat is sick.
Thank you. So I was down in Miami for the title game, and classic Miami, classic the U, right? They had lots and lots of stuff that was very 80s and 90s. So
Yes.
I had to grab at least something, even though it was like a $45 hat or something.
If there's a team that you have here, let's say 9th through 16th, that you think could exceed expectations, who do you think it could be?
Yeah. Well, I think that Oklahoma State, I think, was right on that borderline at 8. But I think that that's sort of the obvious candidate. I mean, last year they were 1-11. It was one of the worst seasons that we've seen from them in a very long time. But like with what they have coming in, like this is a team that I think absolutely has the upside and capacity to win at a high level. Now, I mentioned it. I think that it's really, really hard to build an offensive line in 1 year, and I think that that's probably going to end up being a fatal flaw for them contending for the conference. But you look at their skill talent. I mean, Drew Messmaker coming over at quarterback was one of the top 3 players in the portal. I love their running back coming over as well. They brought over their top wide receiver from North Texas, and I actually think they made some really, really smart additions on defense in the portal as well. This is a team that, again, I mean, I spoke to one staffer over there, and he was just like, yeah, I mean, this roster was a mess. Like we felt like we didn't even have anything to work with. We just had to start from absolute scratch. But I think that they've done it at an incredibly high level. And I think that when you look at that team, I mean, that's one that I think has the upside to, probably lose some games along the way, but also has the upside of potentially getting into the mix. I think that also, again, I mean, it's kind of a little easy to just kind of go with your number 8 and number 9 teams. But Kansas State is really interesting to me. A lot of losses on the defensive side of the ball after making a coaching change, losing their defensive coordinator, Joe Klanderman, to Baylor. But, offensively, this is a team that I think is going to look really interesting. Avery Johnson working with Colin Klein again. He was a huge part of getting him to Manhattan in the first place. I think that their offense is just going to have a chance to be a lot more dynamic, and we'll see what the upside is. Again, I mean, this is, like I talk about with Iowa State, this is a developmental program, and losing developmental guys is tough for trying to hit that upside. But I think that the offensive growth is going to give them a chance to be at least pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Dynamic. Love that word. Definitely was not one used with the K-State offense a season ago, so that'll be exciting for K-State Nation. Shahan, love your power rankings, and thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports, his Big 12 power rankings at cbssports.com, covers college football and really shines a light on the Big 12 at the national level. We've still got Rachel Galligan, our Big 12 women's basketball analyst, coming up next hour. But after this timeout, I want to take Ari behind Joe Lunardi's bracketology, behind the scenes, get his thoughts on some of the things that Lunardi shared on a conference call yesterday for ESPN. This is Big 12 Today. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is A Different League, brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo here on TuneIn.
Tipping it off here on a Wednesday night at CU Event Center, and Maeve McErlane has it on the tip. The Bucks win that drive on Anael Dutah. Bounce pass interior, up off the iron, no good. That was Carter McCray on an offensive rebound and a putback Kiera Wheeler.
I was going to say, Wheeler with a great look. McCray just couldn't get that bunny to drop, but way to stay with it.
Cruising through the lane area. Bodies bouncing around.
I was going to say, some arms being thrown about.
Deep three. Yeah, that's good. Jordan didn't make that happen. Into the half court go the Mountaineers. Walker's in front of that pass to Harrison. Shaw gave it away. McErlane sends it into Masagayo. Bucket and a foul.
I say really good defensive rotation by CU.
Spins one home. CU pep band in the house. Spirit squad helping get the chant going. Buffs would like to get back in the lead. Can they hold off West Virginia? Harrison, nice stop. Let the defense go. Rebound, good reach up by Wheeler to pick it out of there. Cook running and gathers and scores. Gia Cook.
I say CU really slow to recover on that defensive possession.
Walker thinking about
Tap that away from Harrison. Now she'll accelerate toward the basket. Kicks it back, up and down. The shot goes. Counted for Carter McRae. Missed everything with 6 seconds to go. Colorado not going to commit the foul here, and the clock's going to expire. This is the first Big 12 loss at home for the Buffaloes. They had won all 4 of their Big 12 games.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Brought to you by Modelo. What's our Modelo fan rule of the day?
What is our Modelo fan rule of the day?
That went as good as I could have possibly imagined. Because I went to open up our Modelo fan rules Google Doc, which this guy put in some work yesterday. We've got Google Docs. We've got breakdowns. I love it. But I had to request access. I don't have access to the Google Doc.
Since when?
Yeah, I don't know. Must have had the wrong email for me.
I think this one fits for this weekend for sure. If your team is on upset alert, you must sit in the exact same position you were in when things were going well. Gravity depends on you.
I like it.
A lot of teams are going to be upset alert in the Big 12 this weekend as we look at bracketology. So you got to make sure you do whatever you can as a Modelo fan, as part of Modelo fan rules for the full-time fans.
I'm really trying to be more active today in my seat.
I can tell.
Every time I watch this show on replay, it looks like I'm glued to this chair. Like I just lathered up my body in rubber cement and glued myself to this chair. So trying to be a little more animated.
What I want to know is why do some of these make it so difficult to just share? Like shouldn't be restricted. It should be wide open. Like, I don't care.
You're talking about the Google Doc.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, what? What are you talking
about?
Like
Microsoft and Google. Microsoft makes it so hard to open up files. It's unbelievable. You'd think that there were like nuclear codes that people were protecting.
Encryption, dude. Encryption. Everything's encrypted.
Sometimes I feel like some of these tech companies are just messing with us.
Like, let's make it really difficult
for
them to share a simple Google Doc.
Searching in your inbox, you'll search for an email, and you're like, it was there, and it's like, how about an email from 2021? Like, what? You're Google. You know everything. You're trying to tell me that the response I'm putting in there is from 2021?
That makes you angry.
Extremely.
I can tell. It feels like a thing to be really mad about.
I can tell you're being sarcastic, and I don't appreciate that.
It took it personally. So yesterday we had a ESPN college basketball production meeting. None of this is confidential. This is all stuff that Joe Lunardi will be sharing when he's on all these various games, probably right here in the Big 12 this weekend. But he was talking about his latest bracketology because online he's been doing his bracketology about every other day. His last tweet was from 23 hours ago when it comes to the bracketology picture, in which he had TCU as part of the first 4 out. He had Oklahoma State as part of the next 4 of the next 4 out. But he was breaking down just some random topics. And he said, this caught my ear, he said the seeds at the top this year for college basketball. He said he could name the 4 number 1 seeds right now today. And then he said that the gap between those 4 teams and the teams that will be on the 2 line is the largest that he's ever seen in the sport. And he projects that the 1 seeds will be Arizona, Michigan, Duke, and UConn. And he said, no question, those will be the 4 number 1 seeds, and that the gap between 1 and 2 is the biggest it's ever been. Do you believe it's truly the biggest it's ever been? And I ask because UConn...
No, I don't. I just think about the Big 12. Like, how many of the top 4 teams of the Big 12 right now will be 1 seeds?
1. Arizona.
So Houston's that far behind? That's what I'm being led to believe here?
It's a great point. And even Iowa State. Iowa State's 20-2. Like, they have 1 more loss than Duke, Michigan, and UConn. So that shocked me. I almost raised my hand in the chat and said, excuse me, sir, Houston?
So who are the top
Iowa State?
Seeds?
Arizona, Duke,
Michigan,
UConn. UConn currently has a KenPom, by the way, of 8th. Their net ranking, and this has been revised and updated now to include the games last night, is currently 6th. So they're not even a top 4 team or a number 1 seed when it comes to the metrics. But he says it's clear cut. Those will be the 4 number 1 seeds. Now, part of that...
Okay, but that I get. Sure.
But the gap?
Right.
Being the largest he's ever seen between number 1 and number 2?
I don't even know what that means.
And I don't know if he means metrics-wise or if he just means like the chances that somebody else gets a 1 seed.
Okay, that's
maybe based off of their schedule.
That makes sense to me.
Because he did say the Big East is the Big East is the worst it's been in decades. Like, the league is really down this year and may only get 3 teams in the field entirely. He actually said if the new Pac-12 was formed, the Pac-12 would have more teams in the tournament this year than the Big East.
Wow. Yeah, so I mean, I would say that makes a ton of sense to me because I mean, a lot of the time, the 1 seeds come down to Selection Sunday. We don't know who they're going to be until we get to Sunday. So it feels like this year that nobody else can break through as a 1 seed because those are pretty set. I guess I wonder why UConn is in that category.
Well, I would say, and when he talked about UConn, he talked about how bad the Big East is after UConn.
Right. So, like, if the Big East is that bad, like, how is Houston that far off?
Right. That's what I couldn't understand and totally disagree with. Metrics, like, I would take Houston head-to-head right now.
Like, UConn beat Kansas 61-56, and
Peterson didn't play.
Peterson didn't play in that game.
No, he didn't play.
And it was at Allen Fieldhouse, so kind of those things equal out. But like, they lost. They won by 5 at Kansas,
and their only loss is to a Big 12 team, Arizona.
They beaten
Duke's
one other.
only loss is to a Big 12 team, Texas Tech.
It's bizarre.
Now, he also said...
But it is weird that it feels like those are the 4-1 seeds and like nobody else can break through at this point in
Right.
time. Like, we're in February here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's bizarre. I don't think it is that cut and dried. You looked confused by your coffee cup there.
It was empty, which caught me off guard. And I was trying really hard not to distract you, but I failed.
We also had somebody walk in the middle of the show. Taman, who was that?
When was that, and where was I?
I have good news to announce to you guys. The heat is being fixed after the show.
Oh, fantastic.
I was the guy here to come fix the heat.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
That's a game changer.
Yeah, huge.
It's cold
frigid
in
in here. Yeah.
Even today.
Yeah, it's frigid.
All right, the other
just in time for the temperatures to rise.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Wear your tank top tomorrow. It's going to be hot. So hot. Onlysports.com. He also threw some shade at the SEC, which I love. He said that last year, the SEC, they got, 14 teams in the field. He said that'll probably never happen again, and that was more a result of down years in other leagues versus the SEC really standing out. And he didn't, single out the Big 12 as being one of the leagues that had a down year. I think it was just more collectively the entire landscape of college basketball. So I enjoyed that. And then the other comment that he had was that the overall number 1 seed, he did not mention Arizona as being a contender for the number 1 overall seed. Even though they're number 1 today in the net rankings and in KenPom, he says it comes down to UConn and Duke, but
what?
Because of their schedule. He said Arizona has a much greater chance of losing a game or two versus Duke and UConn, which I would make the case if Arizona loses one, they should still be the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah.
They have a head-to-head win over UConn, and they have the toughest schedule of that grouping, especially the rest of the way. Have you seen Duke? Duke plays nobody.
Yeah.
Their toughest game is North Carolina.
It's weird, too, that, the Big 12 would benefit from being the best conference. It's a bizarre thing to be well, UConn will probably be the number 1 overall seed, despite a loss to Arizona, and despite being in a conference that only is going to have 3 bids. The Big 12 is going to be in a position to have 8, maybe even 9 bids, right? 7, 8, 9? Is that where,
UCF would be number 7, and Oklahoma State
8.
or TCU or Baylor or West Virginia would be number 8.
Lots of oars there.
A lot of oars.
I wonder what
4 teams I think are in the mix.
Regardless, you're talking about at a minimum of 7 teams from the Big 12 are getting in. So again, you'd think the strength of Arizona's non-conference, the strength of Arizona's in-conference, and how good the conference is at getting 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bids. It's bizarre. This is very bizarre to me.
He said the 2 best leagues in America are the Big 12 and the Big 10. And it's clear-cut. He said the SEC and the ACC are a tier below those 2 leagues. He likes the Big 10. He also loves the Big 12. Not to interrupt. Sorry, you had a thought.
No. I appreciate that. This is all great stuff, and it's interesting because it's not his opinion. It's Lenardi has a long history of knowing the committee and what they look at, what they're going to do, and so this is very enlightening.
And that's the other kind of side note. I think when people see bracketology, they attack Joe Lenardi,
right,
saying that it's him.
Right.
Joe Lenardi does all of his projections based off of his relationships with the NCAA selection committee and what he thinks they are going to do or would do if the tournament started today.
Okay, so to recap, the 1 seeds are pretty set in stone. February 5th.
February 5th, they're locked in according to Joey Brackets.
UConn and Duke have the best chances to be the number 1 overall seed.
Because of their schedule.
What else?
And that the SEC getting this huge inflated number he never thinks will happen again in college basketball, and that they really benefited from down years in some of the other leagues. The Big 12 in terms of top to bottom last year and how many teams actually got in the field was maybe a down year. The ACC was way down last year. Remember, they only had 3 or 4 teams in. So the SEC really piled on because of that.
Now, here's what I'll say about the number 1 overall seed, right? Because the next question then becomes, all right, so let's just say that Arizona's not. Well, here are the regionals. So it's always important to look at the sites And I could see how this might shape up, and Houston actually may be in good position as a 2 seed here.
Right.
So the South Regional Finals at the Toyota Center in Houston. So that means the Sweet 16 Elite 8 will be in Houston in the South region.
And they can play there because they strategically made Rice the host school. Like there's a school associated to each site.
Yep.
And Houston brilliantly behind the scenes made sure that was Rice and not them.
The West Regional is the SAP Center in San Jose, California. The Midwest Regional is United Center in Chicago. Capital One Arena is the East Regional DC, right? So, okay, so Duke will get the East Regional.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be the one in the East. Mm-hmm. Who are the other? UConn will be, well, okay.
And then they'll have to send either UConn or Michigan out west. No, they'll send Arizona out west.
Arizona will get the West. So who gets the South?
Man, that's going to be interesting.
Because what they've done previously is the 4th 1 seed will get the South, like the South with Houston as the 2 seed in that region. So it's like you're the 1 seed, but you're going to basically play a road game against the 2 seed. That's happened to Kansas a few times, where they had to play UCLA in a regional final as a 1 seed against the UCLA 2 seed in Fresno. It's happened a few times.
So if Duke and UConn are the front runners to be the number 1 overall seed, that matters. And what matters even more is who's going to be the 3rd number 1 seed.
Correct.
Because that's huge.
Because nobody wants the West.
Right.
But I would say Duke probably wants either the East or the Midwest. UConn wants the East. And Michigan wants the Midwest. What if they set Arizona to the South?
That's my thought. Is they'll send Arizona to the South and they'll put Houston as a 2 in another region. Or put Houston
as the 2 in that South.
As the 2 in the South.
Yeah.
And make Arizona and Houston play each other in a potential Elite 8.
Which would suck because I think both of those teams should be in position to be Final Four teams and not one of the 2.
Yep. And the winner of that game would be my pick to win the whole thing. This is going to be fascinating.
This is really fast. It's funny to look at the regional sites to see because that's the only part of this seeding that really matters.
Mm-hmm.
Where is your regional final?
And the regions, they're not super friendly when you look at the teams that are competing at the top of college basketball.
Right.
Because somebody has to go way down south and somebody has to go out west, and there's only one school on the West Coast right now that's a clear-cut number 1, and it's Arizona.
Yeah.
Wild stuff. All right, Rachel Galligan, our Big 12 women's basketball analyst, is coming up next here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio to take a look at the women's side of the Big 12 Conference on the hardwood. He's Ari, I'm James, and this is Big 12 Radio powered by Modelo.
Evans outside on the three-point line for sure. So a lot of in and out movement.
Meister missing the three-pointer. Cannon got it. And you saw Benali do just that, knocking down the three-pointer. Samaya Nichols from the corner. Benali comes around the screen. She hit a couple of threes in the first half, misses that time.
You can see that she has the confidence.
Meister into Davis. One way, then the other. Beautiful move. So Kansas with an extra possession. Good defense by Hamlin. You talked about that earlier, what great hands she has. Baseline jumper, good for Brindley Cannon, and BYU needed that. They're second in the Big 12 in offensive rebounds. They've only gotten 7 in this game compared to 9 for Kansas. Jalea Davis catches, got it, and she was fouled.
She looks around, she sees that Davis is guarded, and they're not gonna help out of her. And she drives right in.
Three-point shot by Hattie Ogden for the Jayhawks. They finally get a commanding win tonight in Lawrence. The Jayhawks, 81-60 with the victory at home over BYU. Jalea Davis with her first double-double of her career, 28 points and 11 rebounds.
Handle on, like,
We're back here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Brought to you by Modelo, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Our Big 12 women's basketball insider is Rachel Galligan, who joins us here on the program. Hey, Rachel, good morning.
What's up? Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here with you.
Glad to have you on, as always. You're a pro, and last night we saw pro-level basketball from Baylor, who got a win. TCU hung 90 in their win over Houston, and then the other winners were Utah, Kansas, Arizona, Arizona State, and West Virginia. Of the games that were played last night, what's the headline for you?
I don't know. I mean, I think, last night was kind of just if it is possible to have a more mild night in Big 12 women's basketball, I would say that was the case. I think TCU and Baylor bouncing back were important. TCU obviously had lost to Texas Tech over the weekend, and I think they made a pretty big statement coming out and, doubling Houston's score 90-45. So I felt like that was a really big win. And I mean, for West Virginia to go up to Boulder and beat Colorado, that was their first conference loss at home. So I think it's always a tough place for people to play at. And West Virginia is a team that continues to kind of slowly earn really, really quality wins and work their way up into the rankings. And so there wasn't really any crazy upsets last night, if you will. But I would say just the bounce back of, the ranked teams, TCU, Baylor, West Virginia, was the storyline.
Yeah, and who do you think is the best team in the Big 12 right now?
That's a great question. I think just based on the standings, you have TCU and Baylor who are sitting at 9-2. West Virginia is really climbing, right up there. They're at 9-3, a game back, along with Texas Tech. They've only lost 3 as well. So I think right now it's got to be between TCU and Baylor. I probably would give the nod, recency bias a little bit, from TCU and basically what they did last night. I think their loss to Texas Tech was, I don't think it was necessarily shocking for me because I call Texas Tech games and I'm in Lubbock all the time, so I see how tough the Lady Raiders are. But I just think from an offensive and a defensive production standpoint, TCU has the most weapons when we're talking about the top 3.
Rachel, when it comes to West Virginia and Texas Tech, and the Big 12 standings are kind of rounding into form with TCU and Baylor at 9-2, and then West Virginia at 9-3, and Texas Tech at 8-3. Is there a gap between those top 4 and everybody else, with Arizona State picking up a really nice win against Oklahoma State last night, or is it more even than that?
I think there's probably a little bit of a gap once you get past Texas Tech. Had Oklahoma State not lost last night, I probably would have them in that category as well. They're still a team I'm kind of trying to figure out in some ways. 6-4 in their last 10 games. I think Utah has been a team that, at any given night they can earn themselves a ranked win. They're a team that can cause upsets. They offensively they're really tough. So you kind of have them in tiers, if you will, and I would say that TCU, Baylor, West Virginia, Texas Tech are really at the top, and then you have that second tier, Oklahoma State, Utah, Arizona State, Iowa State right now.
We were talking to the break, Rach, about Jalea Davis. I mean, what Brandon Schneider's done in terms of recruiting has been tremendous with Samaya Nichols and Jalea Davis. I mean, they put together some really good classes from a recruiting standpoint, but Kansas is, 14-10? They're 12th in the Big 12. So, I mean, how do you sort of contrast Samaya Nichols and Jalea Davis being as good as they've been with the reality that this is not a tournament team?
Yeah, I mean, Kansas is an interesting one for me. I was really high on this team coming into this year. I felt like last year was kind of their slip-up year, if you will, just from a depth standpoint, size and the interior standpoint. But, the recruiting, like you said, it's hard, to think about the type of talent that this team is bringing in, but it's not necessarily always converting to wins. So I'm with you on that. I think this is a really talented team. Samaya Nichols is one of the most dynamic point guards in the country with her ability to get to the free throw line. And, she's so strong, leads the nation in free throw attempts and makes. And then when you add a player like a Jalea Davis, who is now the 5-time Big 12 Freshman of the Week.
Wow.
I mean, I think part of it, Davis missed a handful of games. So how much does that really make a difference in the earlier portion of the season? And when I was looking at some of the numbers last night, I found a really interesting stat. 8 of Kansas's 10 losses have come within single digits. 5 of them were 3 points or less. A portion of those losses happened while Davis was out. And so you do kind of wonder, okay, like if Davis is healthy, if they're maybe a little bit older or maybe, have a little more depth, or there are a couple more wins that they steal. So, I mean, it is. I'm sure it's frustrating for the fans. I'm sure it's frustrating for the team. I mean, this is a team with a ton of talent. They've obviously recruited exceptionally well, a top 10 recruiting class in the nation. You have Julia Davis, who's been phenomenal. And I even think you've got a great supporting cast of players who are amazing. I mean, Elle Evans is shooting like 50% from the three-point line. So it's really interesting. I mean, but, you kind of wonder, is this a team, now that we're in February, that can string together some wins? I was listening to Brenda Van Langen on the call last night, and that's kind of what she was talking about. Like, maybe this is that type of win. I mean, to beat BYU's a good team. To beat BYU and to do so relatively convincingly, 81-60, and you got the momentum with Davis and Samaya Nichols. If she can stay healthy, she's really tweaked her ankle quite a bit. Is this a team that can kind of go on a little bit of a run here in February and into March potentially? I think they have that type of potential, especially when you look at just how close a lot of their losses have been.
Julia Davis is probably not getting the credit she deserves in terms of what she's doing on a night in and night out basis. Can you explain her game to us? I mean, we can see the numbers and watch the highlights, but like, what's the comp and how does she play?
I just think she's a really advanced, not a back to the basket post player, but she's got a lot of great length and she does a lot of her work around the interior. Great footwork in the paint. They do a great job of getting her in position to score, whether it's, she'll do her work before the ball comes in. And so she's working, and I can see it because I was this very similar type of player. Not as good, but I played very similarly to Julia Davis. She's not going to be a three-point perimeter threat, but just really highly efficient around the basket and being able to finish around the rim and use her length, use her footwork, play with her back to the basket, looking for lob opportunities, dump down opportunities. So most of her production, I would say, is coming around, right around the rim, outside of maybe 10, 12 feet. But she's just a nightmare because of her length and her athleticism down there. She's a really difficult matchup. And again, has an advanced knowledge of just positioning. Like great post players, great forwards who score around the rim, do their work before the ball comes in. And I think for a freshman to be as advanced as Davis is has been the most impressive thing for me.
How many bids do you think the Big 12 will end up with?
What do you mean? Like how many bigs?
Bids to the
bids.
tournament.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Kind of looking at the bracketologies, I think it'll end up being, I'm hoping it's closer to 9. It's hard, right? Because, you're looking at West Virginia, who, you want them to host, but then you needed Colorado to get that win to kind of help their resume. I think Arizona State, continues to beef up their resume, earning another quad 1 win. And so, I don't know. I feel like at this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm hoping 8, or I'm hoping 9. I think for sure 8.
8. That'd be a good number for the Big 12. When you look at the slate for this weekend in the conference, and, Baylor and TCU, they still play 2 more times the rest of the way. And there's other great matchups like that. But this weekend, Oklahoma State's back at home. Arizona State plays at Baylor. Texas Tech plays at Houston. Iowa State plays at Utah. What's the marquee matchup in the league?
I would say Iowa State in Salt Lake playing Utah. That's a really interesting one. Again, I think Iowa State obviously started out hot, one of the best teams in the Big 12. Second in the preseason polls, ranked in the top 10, I think, at one point, maybe top 12. Lost 5 games in a row, and everyone's like, oh, the sky's falling, without really understanding the fact losing Addie Brown's like losing an All-American. Yeah. And so they've gotten, healthy to some degree. They've gotten starter back. Addie Brown is still out, but, you've got Jada Williams, Audie Crooks, other supporting roles around those two that are starting to step in to their role. And they're actually on the longest winning streak in the Big 12 right now. They've won 4 in a row. Wow. So I think that's a big test going out to Salt Lake, taking on a really good Utah team, and obviously a big opportunity for Utah too to get a quality win. I think you said it, Arizona State at Baylor. Baylor, they were riding an 8-game win streak, then they took the loss. And I just think the jury's out at times with this team. How good can they actually be? Losing to West Virginia, I was a little bit surprised. I thought that they would be able to handle that game. And so Arizona State, I mean, that's Molly Miller in her first year, I mean, unbelievable. I know, started the season hot, won 19 games or whatever it was in a row, and then you get into conference play, and obviously everybody's beating each other up in the Big 12. But that is a disciplined team. They're a team that, even though they're new, they're veteran, and they're so good defensively. So I expect Arizona State at Baylor to be a really good defensive chess match. That'll be a fun one to watch.
Texas Tech, it's such a good start, the undefeated start. Have they played their best basketball at this point, do you think, already?
It's a good question. I'm going to say no. I don't think they have, because of that win over TCU over the weekend. You kind of wondered, okay, are they flailing a little bit? They lost to Iowa State, which that was the best I had seen Iowa State play all season long. I was able to call that game, and things really clicked for the Cyclones, especially after a lot of adversity. And so I think Texas Tech has gone through kind of their rough patch, right? They lost to Kansas State. They go on the road. They lose to BYU, again, who's a good team. They get a big win, respond with a big win over Utah. Then they lose to Iowa State. So they've lost 3 of 4 at that point. You're going to hit those types of portions of the season. Every team is going to hit adversity. It's really about how you handle it. And what I'm impressed with about Texas Tech is the maturity of this team. You have so many veteran players. This is like one of the TCU is the oldest team in the country, and at the Power 4 level, Texas Tech's the second oldest. And so then they go and they make a great statement. They're able to knock off TCU, in a game where they just really frustrated TCU in a way that I haven't seen anybody else do all season long. And I think what Texas Tech does defensively travels. I think it's consistent. This is a team that has stayed really fairly level-headed, even through the bumps and the hardships through the course of the season. And so I really think that they could continue to amp it up another level. And when I say another level, offensively, I think their offensive production could take another jump with their ability to knock down shots. Like, they're winning. They beat TCU, and they didn't play great offensively in a lot of ways. And so they're tough, they're old, they're veteran. Bailey Mopper is a phenomenal leader. And this team is incredibly bought in and close with one another. And so I think that they've got a lot of resiliency to weather the adversity of a season.
Top 25 team. Awesome stuff. Rachel Galligan, our women's basketball analyst and insider for the Big 12, joining us here on Big 12 Today. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, guys. Stay warm.
Rach. Yeah, thank you. You too.
Rachel Galligan with us each week here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and streaming on your screen on the Big 12 Fast Channel, Big 12 Studios. We wrap it up next with the final whistle. He's Ari, I'm James here on Big 12 Radio, heard on TuneIn.
With play in quite a while. So two teams trying to figure out how to play through some things as the tap is one back.
And so when we talked to Coach Mitchell, he said, because of the size difference that TCU has on the inside, they have to be really great from that mid-range in that 3 area. So it's good that they're getting some production early.
Oh, what a dangerous pass. Donovan Hunter gets it out to Bielefeld in the corner. Drives, kicks out with a one-handed pass to Miles, who singes the strings from the wing. Olivia Miles knocking down her 39th 3 this season. She shoots 40%, though, from the 3 at home this year. Coming off the bench, Kira Merchant on for the first time. Off the glass and off the top of the backboard for Kendall Hunter. And TCU is owning the glass, by the way. They're a +6. Olivia Miles, nobody can stay with her today. Extra pass to Hunter, wide open 3. And stepping in, Kayla King given the continuation, but again, another miss. TCU all over the glass. They have been all game. Olivia Miles doing it herself, flicking it up from the hip and somehow over the top of the rim and in. Before this year, she had 6 in her entire career. This by far a career season for Marta Suarez. As King wiggles left and hits. Suarez trying to make sure she was under control before she shot that one. Another one inside to Suarez. Same play, opposite side.
There you go. And Coach Campbell right after that, he said, Marta, keep going, keep going.
TCU Horned Frogs lead nearly wire to wire behind a 24-point outing from Marta Suarez and 25 from Olivia Miles. The Horned Frogs get it done.
One final time here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios. He's Ari, I'm James. It's the final whistle. Special thanks to our guests today, Rachel Galligan, Big 12 Women's Basketball Insider. We had Shahan Jayaraja, the National College Football writer for CBS Sports, and the Chancellor Johnson, Big 12 analyst and content creator, joined us in hour number 1. Also, as we wrap up the show, Ari, I want to make it very clear, here it is on camera for the world to see and hear.
Okay.
That my wife, when I tried this garment on,
did not
call me fat or stupid. Those would be incredibly mean, and she did not use those words. Maybe that's what I heard in my head.
But she did say old.
At some point, old was mentioned.
It was, I mean, and credit to Lacey for watching you put that on and call you old, fat, and stupid.
She did not call me fat or stupid.
It's a great trio of words to string together.
Also, it was
describe somebody.
Very playful. She's not mean.
No, and
she is a sweet.
I want to make sure that everybody knows, of course it's playful, just like you and I. We have a great playful dynamic together.
You can call me old, fat, and stupid.
And I do sometimes.
Who wouldn't?
Except that we're the same age, although you're going to be 41 in a few weeks. And you're definitely in better shape than I am. And
you wouldn't know based on this poll over.
Stupid, we'll have to agree to disagree on that one.
Agree to disagree on. Yes, you are. Sometimes. This was noted the other day. Apparently, I can't.
I love how Lacey's got on the full defensive here.
Yeah.
It's a good shirt. Yeah. Looks great. Very comfy, very cozy.
I didn't paint her in the best light. And she brought up a good point that the audience maybe doesn't know that her and I have a very playful, bantering relationship. If you didn't know that aspect of it, I do see now that it comes off very mean. All right? But I can't stop power ranking things. I've really leaned into power rankings that we do each and every Wednesday. Just power ranking things at home, power ranking leftovers.
Interesting. Okay.
All kinds of stuff.
Can I get in on this?
Yeah.
You know that I like to power rank. With
I
the best
know.
of them, especially on Wednesdays.
You're the ultimate power ranker.
Thank you. We had Sean on earlier, who was power ranking the Big 12. So what do you like to power rank around the house?
I mean,
leftovers. That sounds very
leftovers. I think the other night I asked my wife to power rank the top 3 things that was annoying her the most in that moment.
Did she?
Well, I think at the top of her list was that I need to stop power ranking things. It's like, this is what I'm talking about.
I ask my kids to power rank things all the time.
See, that's a great idea.
Yeah. You know,
like what?
I mean, video games, movies, literally anything. Parents.
That's what
grandparents.
Parents, definitely.
Yeah.
That's what makes power ranking so fun. You can power rank anything. Anything can be ranked.
It's true. It's true. Just give me the best topics. It's about finding the best topics to power rank. Now, that's the key.
I mean, we can come up with a whole list of things to power rank. Power ranking, that Wednesday segment that we do, and it's not the sports teams, it's the random things that we power rank. It's my favorite moment of the week.
It brings me joy.
It really does.
Especially when I get to denigrate your list.
Right.
Nothing brings me happier than you having a bad power ranking list.
And see, now I've just leaned into that.
Like I would take your bad power ranking list over me having a good list.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that Gonzaga got beat by Portland last night.
Yeah, 6th ranked Gonzaga got beat by Portland last night. And, you know, Gonzaga has historically done a very good job of beating up on a bad conference. Gonzaga lost 101-61 against Michigan. Now, they did beat Kentucky, but Kentucky's kind of a mess. And they do have a win over UCLA.
What was the Michigan loss, the score of that game?
Just 101-61.
They lost by 40?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can put the Gonzaga as a top 3 seed conversation
to bed.
We can set that aside.
Yeah.
We can set that aside.
So they lost last night 87-80 to Portland. So they'll play Oregon State, Washington State, Santa Clara, San Francisco, Pacific, Portland, and St. Mary's to finish out their season this year. Now, they do play a decent non-conference. I'll give them credit. Oklahoma, Creighton, Arizona State, Alabama, Maryland, Michigan, Kentucky, UCLA, Oregon.
Yeah, that's kind of their thing, right? They load
They
up
have
in
to.
the non-conference.
They have to. But, yeah, I mean, you're 22-2. I mean, what would a bunch of teams – what would Kansas's record be with that schedule?
Right.
What would K-State's record be with that schedule?
Probably a tournament team. I mean, I saw that this is going down as, based off of where Portland was in the net and KenPom, the biggest upset in the last 3 decades, the last 30 years. I mean, Portland was not good. Portland's not – they're not a basketball school.
What are they?
They're an academic program.
Your sister lives in Portland. Is Portland basketball known in that?
Not anymore.
Just
Not
the
anymore.
Blazers?
Yeah, no, not anymore.
And I mean, I didn't even know. Like, I figured when I saw Gonzaga lost to Portland, I was like, oh, Portland State? No, Portland.
No, Portland. There's multiple Portlands. There's a Portland and a Portland State.
Wow, the University of Portland's a private Catholic university in Portland, Oregon.
What's the enrollment? I'm going to guess 4,000. What is it?
3,700.
Bro, I know my schools.
Now, if we were playing Price is Right, you would have lost.
Yeah, there's a lot of smaller private schools that play D1 basketball, and I love it. Now, we know that the Big 12 is going to have a monster rest of the month in March. And something big is coming. Something big is happening. And Brett Yormark teased about a major announcement coming soon.
We are going to be making some major announcements soon on some big-time enhancements, which, listen, I'm a first mover, and our conference is a first mover. That's how we position ourselves. And we're going to be doing some things that have never been done in the collegiate space, and I think the first announcement is going to be next Tuesday. So be on the lookout for that. And then we're going to integrate some big-time musical talent, which is also going to be great. And listen, from day one, it's all been about how do we continue to celebritize our tournament? How do we make it destinational for fans? How do we give student athletes just the best type of experience possible? And I thought we did it well last year, but we're going to keep building on it. And this year is going to be incredible. And again, the fans are going to be in store for some amazing moments. There's a lot of things I can't discuss tonight. But over the course of the next couple of...
That's a tough tease.
It is. But over the course of the next couple of weeks, we'll start dripping it out there, and it's going to be amazing.
That is an A-plus tease. The first announcement's going to come on Tuesday, which is February 10th, which is 5 days away. We get the first drip, as he noted. And I love what he said about the Big 12 is first movers. This is an innovative league, and that's what makes it so exciting. You never know what's coming next.
Let me just say that you and I both know what this announcement is going to be, and this is a very big deal. This announcement is going to be a very big deal. And I don't know that you can make as big of a deal out of the announcement as the deal is going to be. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you're like, oh yeah, big announcement, cool, like enhancements. What does that mean? The announcement that he's talking about referencing is a game changer. I'm not just saying that. I would have just said nothing and left it at that.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
It's going to be awesome.
Well, and it just speaks to where the Big 12 is under Brett Yormark. It's innovative. It is a first mover. And, I mean, look, if you take stock of where the conference is just as a whole right now under Brett Yormark, in a very short period of time, just the incredible achievements of this conference to not only survive, but to continue to thrive, despite really a lot of things working against it. I mean, think about conference realignment, think about the television revenue. This was not a great job relative to what you're up against for Brett Yormark to take over.
That's a great point.
And, I mean, he's made chicken salad in a big way. And look, it's not all the credit goes to Brett Yormark. I mean, incredible staff that he works with, but also the schools, the buy-in. Like you look at the ACC, and there's such a disagreement amongst the schools and the conference. Like the alignment that this conference has is second to none. I'm not even sure the SEC or the Big Ten has this level of alignment, just amongst the schools and amongst amongst at the conference level. So, I can't wait for this announcement to become public. It's going to make huge headlines across the sports landscape. I can't wait to see what this whole thing looks like when we get out to Kansas City here. It's incredible.
And when the announcement is made on Tuesday, we can share more, but there's going to be a quick turnaround. It's not going to be an announcement and then we wait 6 to 9 months and kind of forget about it. It's going to be a very quick turnaround that Big 12 Nation is going to be very excited about, and everybody will be buzzing and talking about it. So it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
Another note, and we'll have to touch more on this tomorrow, but Pete Nakos went inside NIL negotiations with the 2026 recruiting class, and there is some wild stuff. And he's talking about programs like USC, bless you again.
Thank you.
He's talking about SEC programs. He uses Vanderbilt and Georgia as an example. He talked with a bunch of anonymous GMs, but then also kind of like put their names out there. No Big 12 schools mentioned in any type of capacity, which is a good thing for this because this is wild. Like, I'll just quote one of these just to give you a snippet. One general manager said, "We had a kid that asked for a signing bonus, a flight stipend, a jersey number choice guarantee, an insurance policy, loss of home and disability, vehicle stipend, stipend for a rental house, an award campaign push, preferred walk-on spot, tickets to home and away games, and field passes for agents."
What? What's the most ridiculous thing on that list?
Oh, man.
Jersey number preference?
I think I'm maybe going award campaign push without actually playing a snap.
That one is amazing.
You got award campaign. All right, Heisman talk right away.
By the way, you don't get if you don't want to. What do they do if can we take that out and put something else in? Then we won't talk about you.
Field passes for agents, which I'm sure is probably pretty much built into a lot of these, but I like that one too because this was clearly written by the agent. Field passes for me and my bros. We want to run out with the team. Cool? Is that cool? Death Valley, what do you think?
Not the family, right? I'm sure the kids can my family get no, please. We need to be on the field. We need to make sure you're doing okay. How are you doing? The award push is hilarious. That's like one of those things where it's like, all right, you've got to come up with a list of things. All right, my assignment is to do this. What are all the things that we could give them that they would be attractive? It's like you get this list. It's like the insurance policy, the stipend for rent, car stipend, whatever, blah 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 blah. You get down, you're like, what else can we add? I don't know, Heisman push? What?
Heisman push.
Isn't every school incentivized to advertise their guy as an award winner?
Man, I'd love to know who that player was and where they landed. Meanwhile, you have a coach at UTEP, Scotty Walden. Him and his wife are going to give $80,000 of his salary for this year back to UTEP's revenue share, which is 10% of his salary. He's making $800K. He's giving 10% of his own personal money back to the university and back to his players.
This says a lot about Scotty Walden. It says a lot more about every other coach in America. I mean, how many coaches are making more than $800,000 a year?
A lot.
How many are making multiple millions a year?
A lot.
Now, if you just donated, now not all of them should or need to, but if you just donated 10% of your salary back, that would mean a lot.
See, he's been at UTEP for, this will be year 3.
Now, it's also important to note something, which is, as we discussed, UTEP is one of those building block programs where you're going to lose more than half your roster every year if you're good.
It's never been harder to win at the Group of 5.
Right. So I think, it's funny because at those levels, you've got coaches that are making less money and they're probably have access to less donor base, right? They have less, they get less, there's less attention, there's less money, everything's less. And so in some ways, your coaches are more incentivized to doing things like this, but that's a substantial amount of money for them to be giving up to try to retain players. I wonder if it works.
Right. We'll find out. Find out this fall. All right, he's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. That'll put a wrap on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. We are back tomorrow from 8A to 11A Eastern Time, 7 to 10 Central, right here on the channel. Special thanks to Taman, T-Chains, our producer, Anthony Smith on the video side. We're out.
Peace.